hard, but it's not hard once you break it down into the different components. So the MAEP funding formula, like the agency, like it was, this is the way it's going to look. But we're gonna go through each component, and when I finish, it's gonna be so easy for you. You'll be like, oh, I didn't know it was that easy. So first we start with the average daily attendance plus the high growth. After we move from that part, we take the base student cost, add in the at-risk funding, minus the local contributions, plus whole homeless guarantee. So that gives me my MAEP's base formula. That's just the start. I'm not finished because I have to go into my second bullet and pick up my add-on programs. That gives me my total MAEP district funding. Now, so for this presentation, we'll talk about each part and I'll say a component. So the first part, next slide of the component is the base student cost. So this is, like I said, all school districts have the same base student cost regardless of where they are. So the Mississippi Code provides the guideline for how the base student is calculated. It contains four major components. That's instruction, administrative, operation, and maintenance of plant and ancillary support. Now, this is what you hear a lot of going on in legislature where they're saying there's no method, how you come up with it. So right now, this is how we come up with the base student cost. So we take the expenditures from these four categories and we come up with what the base student cost will be. So we have like a method for how we're coming up with it. We take the average cost of these four components, and the average cost comes from the financial data that all school districts and charter schools submit annually. The information is due by October 15th of each year, and that deadline is established in law. This is Code Section 3761.1. The base student cost is calculated every 4 years. It's recalculated every 4 years. The last time we did a recalculation was 23. And at that time, we used 21 financial data because that's the latest data we had at the time. MAEP is like, we do that like almost 2 years ahead of time because we have to have the funding calculated so that we'll know what's going over to the legislature, so the legislators can appropriate funding for the schools and for the charter, so we have to be ahead of the curve. FY27 will be the next recalculation year for the base student cost. At that time, we will use FY25 data. Next slide. Now, in the years that the base student cost is not recalculated, you don't stay at the same rate. Hey, we know things go up. We know fuel is going up, groceries is going up. Let's talk about this. Insurance is going up. Everything is increasing. We know pay rates are going up. So during the time that the recalculation does not happen, there is an inflation rate that's added onto the base student cost. That inflation rate, it takes the base student cost multiplied by 40%. And then we add the inflation rate onto the 40%. That increases the base student cost every year. So even if it's not recalculated, the base student cost is going to increase because you're going to do 40% of the base student cost times the inflation rate. Any adjustment, so let's say if last year we had a teacher pay raise, and that teacher pay raise rolls over to the next year, then what you do is you have to do an adjustment and adjustment added to the base student cost, which it increases that base student cost. So the teacher pay raise from last year is added to the base student cost as an adjustment for the next year. So any adjustments for a teacher pay raise, health insurance, life insurance, the PERS increase they talk about, but it didn't happen. All of that is added as an adjustment to the base student cost. So that's how it gets into the MAEP formula as an adjustment to the base student cost. And I have some slides where I'm going to show you what I'm talking about because you hear this, but when you see it, it looks it's much easier. Okay, so now let's look at it. Okay, so here is an example of base student cost. We're starting off with our base student cost from last year as we calculated it. It was $7,265.21. 40% of the base student cost. This is where I'm saying when the base student cost is not recalculated. We do 40% of the base student cost. We take that inflation rate, which is the 3.137%, which gives us $91.16. We did an adjustment for the FY25 PERS increase, which we were thinking, hey, this is going to go in place, so we need an adjustment for $72.94 for the PERS increase. We know health insurance is going up. We know life insurance is going up. So we need to adjust the base student cost by $36.01. So that means that FY25 base student cost will be $7,465.32. So you see an increase from 24. So you have an increase in your base student cost. You have an increase for your PERS and an increase for your health and life insurance. We don't have an increase in there for a teacher pay raise. At that time, we heard nothing of the teacher pay raise. I'm just saying if one came out, something else was different would have to happen. But at the time of the calculation, we didn't have any knowledge of that. And I'm not saying when it's going to happen, I'm saying nothing, we didn't have any knowledge of that. So this is the base student cost that we're looking at for FY25 as it was presented. This is not final, so I'm not saying this is what it's going to be. Not the final approval, so this is just what was presented. Next slide. Now we get into the charts. So what happens, we're going to talk about enrollment projections. Okay, so a request is sent to the charter authorizer from the Department of Education from our office, the Office of School Financial Services. So what I'm going to do is in June, I'm going to send a preliminary request. I'm going to say, I'm going to send a request for the estimated enrollment numbers in June. And then in November, I'm going to send another request and say, can you please send me the final enrollment numbers for the next year? So I have 25 enrollment numbers. So I'll be sending a request in June asking for 26 numbers. And then I'm going to send one in December asking for the final numbers. Now those final numbers, that is what the MAEP calculation will be based on. That's what your funding is going to be based on, those final numbers that I received in November. And that request, that's the request that will be sent to the legislature in January. All right, so like I said, we through with 25 requests. See, I'm getting ready to work on 26. You see how far we're ahead? We're in 24, but I'm getting ready to work on 26. And this is just an example of what the enrollment projections look like when I get it. So you just see here, it's just 2 schools. So I have the school 90, I have what grades they're gonna serve, and then I have how many students they will be serving. So it says here, contract enrollment. So this is the number that I'm going to use. So for the first school, I had 565. For the second school, I had 675 students. These are the numbers that will be used in the MAEP calculation. Okay, next slide. So now I want to show you what it looks like. This is an enrollment component example. So I take a base student cost, which we just talked about earlier on the slides. That's $7,465.32. I take that enrollment projection of 565. That gives me the first part in the FY25 enrollment component of $4.2 million. So we're just getting started. So this is just the first step of funding of what the charter will receive. Next slide. Okay, next we go to the at-risk funding that the charter will receive. Now, the at-risk funding is calculated based upon the local school district in which the charter resides. So what I have to do is take whatever their funding is. What are they calculating for funding? So I'm going to take the local school district funding. I take it, I divide it by the local school district ADA. I multiply it by the charter school enrollment projections. And then that's going to give me the at-risk funding that the charter school is eligible for. That's going to be added to the $4.2 million we just talked about on the previous slide. So we got 4.2 plus we got this 244,000. Next slide. Next is the local contribution piece. So this is what the locals are going to contribute to education. So the local contribution is amount of funding calculated from the assessment data and the value of the village of the district. We use the second preceding year, so for FY25, we use 23 data. Right now in the office, we're trying to get information from the tax assessors for the 26 calculation. We are pleading and begging to get the information. We sent the request out in December, it was due February 1st, we still don't have all the information. So it's trying hard to get it from. Okay, so it's capped on the local contribution, they're capped at 27% of MAEP prior to the local contribution or 28 meals, whichever one is greater. Next slide. So here is an example, and so this is an example of JPS. So we got a lot of charter schools residing in the JPS area, but for those schools that reside, so what we have to do is it's going to be based upon whatever JPS local contributions are. The charter schools have to share because that's the district in which they reside in. So I get all of this information from the tax authority. I have to know what's the asset value of the property. They give me that 1.2. The homestead exemption, the net assessed values, the formula is going to tell me number 4, like what the calculation of the 28 meals. Now, if you remember on the previous slide, I said you have to take the 28 meals or the 27% of MAEP, whichever one is the lesser, that's the one we're gonna go with. So when you look on down in the blue, when I calculate my 27 meals, the 27% of MAEP, it was the lesser. So for this calculation for JPS, their local contribution is going to be the $32 million. So then that's what I'm going to use to calculate what the charter school local contribution is going to be. It's going to be based on the $32 million because that's what JPS is calculating on. So I'm going to show you how that looks. Go to the next slide. All right, so this is the local contribution funding for the charter school. So as I said on the previous slide, this is the amount that Jackson Public School, this is the amount that they calculated, the $32 million. So we take the total ADA of the school district in which the charter resides, plus all of the enrollment projections for all charter schools that reside within the district. So we got to take all the charter schools in the Jackson area. So we take all of their enrollment projections, and then we're going to divide it by, multiply it by the charter school for which I am doing the AD is calculating for whatever that particular charter school is. And that gives me the local contribution amount for that charter school. So here you can see it's $1 million+. So now this is the amount that the charter school can expect to receive from the local school district when we do those charter school payments that's due by January the 16th. Now you may get more than this, but this is what you are expected to receive. And the reason why I say you may get more than this here because right when we do this calculation, it is based on the school district based on ADA, but when we do the charter school local support payment, it's based on net membership for month 1, which is always higher than what this is. So when I looked at this school district, this charter school, they actually received in local contributions, they received like 1.7 million, where on here it was like 1 million. So they actually received more money, which is always good. You always want to receive more money than less money. So, but you will have this in your budget, so you always will want to come ahead and not, over. So this is your local contribution piece. Next slide. So I just did a calculation to sum up. This is a summary of what we talked about for the MAEP form. So we got the enrollment component of the 4.2 million. We got the at-risk component of 244,000. You have to back out the local contribution because that's not going to come from the Department of Education. That comes from the local, that comes from your local support payments. So your total MAEP formula amount is $3.4 million. This is what MDE, School Financial Services, is going to be sending you each month. When we got to the add-on programs here, we're going to add on the add-on programs, and we'll send you this amount each month, 112 and 112 pay. So this is not the end of the story. You still got some more money coming. So let's keep on. I know you're so happy. Here's some more money. So this is just your MAEP base formula. So let's go on to the next slide. Going on to those add-on programs. Okay, so your add-on program, that's like special education, alternative education, transportation, gifted, and CTE. So this money comes in a lump sum to us, and we send it in a lump sum to you. Now, the number of teacher units you get is depends upon these different offices, program offices. Go to the next slide. So each program office will provide to the Office of School Financial Services how many teaching units each charter school will need in the month of December. They'll give you the final numbers in December and June. They provide you preliminaries. Now, what I'll do is I'll take the number of teaching units multiplied by the average salary. The average salary comes from our technology office, and that information is based upon the personnel information that the charter schools input into MSIS. That December deadline, that December the 6th deadline, when we say, hey, information is due December the 6th, by noon, you know, you're locked out, try to go in at 12:01 and you can't get in, that's what we use. Okay, next slide, I'm gonna have to show you how that looks. All right, so here we go, we got an example. So this is SPED, gifted, and CTE, and it all works the same way. So let's say you have for special education, they tell me, hey, for the charter school, we have 1.22 units for special ed. We pull your average salaries. Your average salaries is 52,683. So I'm gonna take that 52,683 multiplied by those 1.22 teacher units. Well, you know, I gotta add you some benefits on because you don't wanna have to pay that yourself. So I add the benefits on top of it. So the total amount that you're gonna get for your SPED units, if this is just SPED, is 81,659. Okay, well, you got a charter school right over here next door to you. Guess what? They got the same number of units. And then they were like, girl, I'm getting less money than you are, and I got the same number of teaching units. How is that happening? They must have something wrong up there. Well, let me tell you how that happened. Well, district number 2 could have teachers that are coming in, they got 1A and 0 years of experience. But over here in District 1 could have teachers that coming in with 3A and 13 years of experience. See, they got these highly qualified teachers. So that's why their average salary is higher. So you could have the same number of teaching units, but your average salary, one is less and one is higher. So that's what causes that. So it's not an error in calculation, it's just who you're employing. So that makes a difference. All right, next slide. Your alternative education component. Now, alternative education units, they are 0.75 units per enrollment or 12 units, whichever one is greater. The per pupil amount is calculated from our statewide actual expenditures. Now, for the charter schools, none of them have calculated to get 12 units because remember it says it's 0.75 units of enrollment. So you would have to have at least 1,700 students to get over 12 units. So all charter schools receive the same amount for alternative ed, at $175,236, which is actually a benefit because you're receiving more money than your actual number of students that you have. Because if you calculated the 14,603 times 4, you see what you will be getting, but you're actually getting 175,000. So you're getting extra money in that category because the law says it's 0.75 or 12 units. So you get the 12 units, it is a benefit. Okay, next slide. The transportation component, now that's based upon the school district in which you reside. So what we do is we take the previous year request of the school district in which you reside, plus your previous transportation request. We're going to multiply it by the ADA of the school district in which you reside, plus the enrollment projection of all the charter schools in the area. We multiply that times the enrollment projection of the charter school in which we're doing the calculation for, and they give you your transportation adjustment. So some of these are all depends upon the school district that you're in. You know, it's like you sharing money. Like we did that for local contribution, we're doing that for transportation, we did that for ed-risk. So some money you have to share with the local school district. It's based on local school district fund. And next slide. Now this is a summary of everything we just talked about for the add-on part of MAEP. So we said for the SPED program, you're going to get 81,000, not the SPED, but for SPED, gifted, and CTE. Let's say if you had all of those teacher units, you would get 81,659, or if you just had one, because you may not apply for, be eligible for all of those programs. So you get 81,659 for alternative ed, you funded at 175,236. Transportation was 133,769. So your total add-on amount is 390,663. And so this amount here, it is going to be added onto your MAEP base formula. Next slide. So now here is the sum. So we took the MAEP base formula, that 3.4 million. The add-on programs were 390,000. So your MAEP full funding request is $3.8 million. Now this is full funding. So if the legislators came in and funded MAEP at 100%, 3.8 would be what you would be funded for. But you know, we don't bank on that, we don't sleep on that, we don't trust it. Okay? So I'm just saying, you know, just factor in that you're gonna get less. So this year underfunded percent was 10.31%. So if we just take the same one and just imagine we're gonna get that next year, our underfunded is gonna be 396,000. So instead of us getting 3.8, we're gonna get 3.4. That's what we're gonna get. Now this is before we do those adjustments. We still got to get to that. So right now you're sitting at $3.4 million for your FY25 allocation. Right. Next slide. Now, this is a notice that goes out to all charter schools, usually around January or February. School Financial Service will upload it to the SharePoint folder. So this is just give you a comparison of what happened in 25, what happened in 24. So you can look at your changes in your data. You can look at your changes in your enrollment. Like on the first line, you'll see how it says you had 565, says month 2 and 3, 88, but there's your enrollment. So you had 565 students in 24, in 25, and in 24 you had 480. So you increased 85, you're different for 85. It'll tell you the difference in base student costs from 25 to 24. So anything you want to know, like what are my changes? Maybe you didn't keep up with them. You can look at this sheet and it will tell you everything that happened from 25 to 24. And so it depends on how long you've been in business. You can look at that SharePoint folder and you will have one of these. If you can compare 24 to 23, 23 to 22, you just keep putting them in there year after year. Next slide. This is just an MAEP funding history over the years from 18 to 24. So if you look at that last column, you see how those underfunded percentages, so that's why I say we don't bank at 100% because you don't see it has ever been funded at 100%. So we have cuts each year. Next slide. Now we're going to get into your enrollment projection adjustments. All right. So in December of each year, that this is when all school districts put in their personnel. So you have to have all updates and corrections to the personnel input into M6 by this day. This day, the door is closed, sealed, locked, you cannot get in. So you call and say you didn't do something. Just gonna tell you, so sorry. We can't go back in and open it, you know. We can't, because we at that time we trying to close. I'm trying to get 26 MAEP done, and we just can't open it back up. In January through March of the preceding year, we're gonna do a reconciliation on the charts to see what happened. At this time, what we're about to do is we're gonna take your enrollment numbers for 24, we're gonna use 24 as an example. So we're gonna take those 24 enrollment numbers and compare them to your 2488 for months 2 and 3, because that's what the school district's MAEP funding is calculated on. So now we're about to calculate your funding on 2 and 3. And so we're gonna run reports to say how many students did they actually have. You know what their enrollment is, but how many did they actually have? So months 2 and 3, that's October and November. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is an example. So I just did all of the charts. You will see the enrollment. These are the numbers that the MAEP was calculated on for FY24. And the second 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth one that says FY24 88 months 2 and 3. These are the actual number of students that they had for months 2 and 3. So this is what the reconciliation is based on. And the last column is just the difference. So this is what we gotta make adjustments for, because it wasn't actually, you know, what we thought it was gonna be at the beginning. So now we gotta go in and perform these adjustments for the difference. So I highlighted the charter that I had highlighted because the example that we're about to roll through is based on this school, so you can actually see it as you go. Okay, next slide. Okay, a notice is sent to all charters notifying them of what the adjustment is going to be. Because I don't want anybody to be surprised when FY 25 comes. So I try to send this notice out as early as we can to say this is going to be the adjustment, so you can, go ahead and start planning for what your 25 adjustment looks like. Okay, next slide. Now, each component of the MAEP calculation has to be reconciled. So just like I went through the MAEP calculation, well, we got to reconcile each component. So, we got to do the enrollment. So we base it upon 480. Now we got to base it upon 432. So based upon that scenario, we need $324,444. That's the difference between the original calculation and the recalculation of MAEP. So it's like, okay, well, we got an overpayment here of $324,000. Okay, that's the enrollment projection part of it. Next slide. Now we go to the at-risk adjustment. So we have to adjust that as well. So all of this is going to be based on these new numbers. It's going to be based on 432, where everything was based on 480. Now we base it on 432. So at-risk is over by $18,995. Next slide. The local contribution. So, this is what the locals provide. So now it says on the local end, it's over by $174,184. Next slide. This is your add-on programs. Okay, on the add-on programs for SPED, gifted, CTE, and alternative school, none of that changes. We don't go back and do recalculation on that. The only thing we recalculate on this end is transportation. So on here is transportation was over $10,505, but on the other programs, there's no recalculation that goes on that. Next slide. So now here is a summary in the first one that says 24 that will tell you what happened when we made the adjustment. So you see for the ADA component, we were over the 324,000, at-risk over the 18,000. That local contribution, 174,000. The add-on programs, that's just transportation, because like I said, the other ones didn't get an adjustment. That's 10,505. So the total adjustment was 179,000. Well, MAEP was not 100% funded, so I can't take that whole 179,000. So we have to consider the underfunding percentage. So the total adjustment is 161,230. So if you look on the next side, it said FY25. If you remember when we talked about the FY25 MAEP allocation amount, we were at $3.4 million. So now I have to take this $161,000 adjustment from the 3.4. So for FY25, the charter will receive $3.2 million. With 3.2, you see the risk number close to 3.3. But this is the amount of funding they receive for 25. We'll send this out in 12 installments. And that is it. Next slide is questions. So that's it. That's the way it goes, funding and adjustments.
Board members. Can we get a copy of that PowerPoint?
It's gonna be a test. All right, your own questions.
You're welcome.
Yes. I have just one question. So what I gathered, better the school does in projecting their enrollment, I guess, or most as accurate, like if that is as accurate, more accurate that is to the reality, I guess, in the previous year, then the less of a risk to having to make a big adjustment, I guess, the following year. Yeah, you're great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So if y'all have any questions later, feel free to email me or call.
Okay.
All righty.
Okay.
All right.
concludes my report. So now we'll move on to the executive director's report.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to everybody. And thank you again, Letitia, for being here today. I appreciate that. Just as always, call out the newsletter that's in your board packet. You also have an updated letter of intent and eligibility determinations for the 4 schools that are in your board packet as backup material. And then just a little more detail that we've added to that chart. And then for Ambitions Renewal, I have mentioned this last month, but again, I just have to thank Dr. McDonald, I don't know if he's coming back in, and Cognia's team, and absolutely the school. I mean, it was just a seamless process. I think everything went beautifully as it could be expected. And so it was just a delight to be able to see all the kids in action and see the teachers and just see the beauty of the school and all the hard work and commitment to excellence over there. It's amazing. And if you haven't been to visit Ambition, I would encourage you to do so. They are doing an amazing job for the boys and girls. So thank you again, DRG, for your hard work. And I thought I saw Mr. Berger here somewhere. Quit hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus, for being here and for all your commitment to the whole charter sector, not just to Ambition, but for all you do for charters across the state and otherwise. So thank you for that. And then I think Jean alluded to the fact that we've been over at the Capitol quite a bit for the past several months, and we'll continue to work on the legislation proposed and otherwise. And then we all, staff members all, did engage with Heather Wendling, and with some of you did, Veronica. So got a couple of folks from NACSA that were here, but it was great. We had good conversation talking about how we are engaging with the community and how we're building the charter sector, evolving as NACSA is, more in a community-driven way, as opposed to coming in and charters doing too, and going from the ground up in a grassroots movement. So it was great, and enjoyed having them visit us. So that ends my report for the day.
Thank you. Any questions?
Unless somebody has questions. All right.
All right. Is Denise here?
She is not
Okay.
here. She is out of town. So
Okay.
if there are any questions about that, I will do my best to answer.
Do any board members have questions about the financial report? No? Okay. All right. I don't believe we have any committee reports, but we have a number of requests for public comment. And first up is Mrs. Amanda Johnson will speak on behalf of Clarksdale's merger application. Let me ask people to keep their comments under 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for allowing me to be here. I'll introduce myself just in case we haven't had an opportunity to meet. My name is Amanda Johnson. I have the privilege of being the founder and executive director of Clarksdale Collegiate Public Charter School. We are located in Clarksdale, Mississippi. We have right under 600 scholars in kindergarten through 7th grade right now. This past fall, we were approved to open Clarksdale Collegiate Prep, 12 school, and we have put together a merger application to merge our 2 contracts, the K-8 Clarksdale Collegiate Public Charter School and the 9-12 Clarksdale Collegiate Prep, into one charter. And so I'm here to ask for that to happen. This is the easiest time to make that happen, seeing that the high school has not opened yet. Our first year with 9th graders will be the school year 25-26. So this is an opportunity for us to make that contractual change in order to merge the school. And the main reason why is to eliminate some duplicative reporting. But then also the most important thing is that we made a promise to scholars in Clarksdale to ensure that they are ready to go to and through college, that they'll have opportunities available to them. And so for us to do that, we want to have a seamless transition from the K-8 to the 9-12 so that we can fulfill that promise. I am not going to take up the full 5 minutes, but I would love to address any questions that you had about the merger application, so that when you guys are ready to vote, that can happen. No issues.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we had several individuals who requested to give public comment on behalf of SR1 College Prep STEM Academy, and first is Mrs. Terry Thornton.
Good afternoon, board.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I'm going to try to keep this under 5 minutes, of course. I first want to kind of give you guys an update on where we are with SR1 CPSA, we are still actively implementing this well-established recruitment plan that we had established, but as you know, we had to kind of curtail that report. So the board meetings on March 4th try to meet those deadlines so that we're here. Our highlights begin for the current 23-24 school. We now have 24 students. So we started out with 12, then we got to 15, and now we're at 24. In preparations for the 24-25 school year, we have now currently 150 students enrolled. So we have met the deadline that was set before us on March 11th. We're also excited to report that 40 out of 40 of our spots have already been filled with the wait list for our SR1 CPSA future pipeline, which is our pre-K program. It's already full, students are ready to go. Media coverage and the responsibilities of recognition. SR1, we've had commercials and we're airing on WAPT. SR1 commercials will begin. As mentioned before, SR1, we've been on WLBT Studio 3. Additional SR1 CPSA has been partnership with the School Mint to help build digital advertising and our enrollment support. We'll have billboards coming up. Some billboards will be placed throughout the city promoting the school and are being disseminated throughout the central Mississippi area. Promotional products, we're still doing those. SR1 CPSA has developed informational postcards to enhance our communication outreach efforts. We've created merchandise, keychains, pins, buttons, pencils, and pens. And if you can see us, several of us are wearing our school spirit wear in the background. We have disseminated over 2,400 postcards within the area. Enrollment efforts, the school has initiated enrollment efforts on Saturday. We provide opportunities for interested families to learn more. We have numerous visits to Head Starts and daycare centers in the Canton area. Our fundraising updates, SR1 fundraising initiatives is in progress. Notably, some fundraising tend to target their donations to SR1, pending the positive endorsements from the Mississippi Charter School Authorizing Board. Their commitment will be reinforced following related guidance from this board. The future plans of Phase 2 for SR1. We continue to work with multiple news outlets to create articles to promote SR1 CPSA and community engagement. We're attending events around the community from door-to-door advertising and hosting open houses. We continue to work with School Meet to promote one more digital advertising on social media. We're doing summer camps this summer to offer for our K through second grade students to serve as a summer bridge into our program. We'll continue to break the ground on our permanent campus coming the fall of 2025. In conclusion, SR1 CPSA enrollments updates indicate a proactive and successful approach to recruitment with very positive outcomes for the current and upcoming school year. This school's effort in the media exposure, informational materials, and community engagement, they are contributing to growing a vibrant student body. And if I could, I have a letter from a parent, and I'll take my last few minutes to share. The letter is written from Dr. Demano Paris J. Williams, and he is a parent of one of our students. It says, Dear Executive Director, Dr. K, and the Chair, Jean Cook, and the Mississippi Charter School Authorizing Board. As a prior parent and partner of SR1 College Preparatory STEM Academy, I must strongly voice how concerned I am about the possibility of the school not being approved to continue operations, let alone be unsatisfactory funding for the upcoming school year 2024-25. SR1 College Preparatory STEM Academy closure will affect my wife and I and the entire Canton public community tremendously by placing us all in an undesired position to make a difficult decision as to where our children will attend to receive a quality, well-rounded education that suits them holistically, as we feel the Canton public school system has failed us and our children in some respects. SR1 CPSA has so much to offer children. However, I can only share the overall experience of my 5-year-old son while attending SR1 CPS. My son's name is James Josiah, and since his very first day of attending SR1, he has always come home after school and shared eagerly and excitedly what all he learned from attending such school. James Josiah has shown great improvement academically, and his love for learning has increased greatly. Furthermore, my son has also shown an increase increase within his vocabulary. His knowledge base is use of such accelerated terminology. My wife, Aaron, and I recently had a conversation about the need to change how we communicate with our 5-year-old son because of his advanced dialogue since attending SR1 CPSA. SR1 has shown the Camp Public community what a successful, high-quality charter school looks like. With science, technology, engineering, and mathematics at the forefront of educational academic curriculum, I stand confident in my support of SR1 and its initiatives to continue a personal, well-rounded educational experience, not only for my son, but for the many other students within the Camp Public Schools. In my closing, allow me the space to remind you of your responsibility at the Mississippi Charter School Authorized Board, which is to ensure a sound decision is made on behalf of the public. Furthermore, as a decision is made on today regarding the possible opportunity for SR1 College and Preparatory STEM Academy to continue its impactful operation, I ask that you remember the mission of the Mississippi Charter School Authorized Board, which states to authorize high-quality charter schools, particularly those designed to expand opportunities for underserved students. I want you all to know that SR1 CPSA Academy is a high-quality charter school that currently serves my 5-year-old son, James Josiah, extremely well, more so than any public school, in my opinion. I strongly ask that you do all that you can that's within your decision-making rights on today. And lastly, I want to pose a question to you. What would you do if it were your child faced with such extreme difficult challenges of choosing where to attend to receive a high quality education? Educationally yours, Dr. Demano Powers D. Williams, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, William Positive Action Collective, Incorporated. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next is LaShondria Doran.
Hello. My name is LaShondria Durant, and I will be speaking as a candidate as well on behalf of SR1. I would like to express my strong support for keeping SR1 College Preparatory and STEM Academy open for my children. Currently, I have one child enrolled in kindergarten and another one who will be entering the kindergarten next year. Both of my children have benefited greatly from the exceptional education, nurturing environment, and unique opportunities provided by SR1 College Preparatory and STEM Academy. The kindergarten program at SR1 has been instrumental in laying a solid academic foundation for my child. With dedicated teachers, innovative curriculum, and emphasis on STEM education have fostered a love for learning and critical thinking skills from an early age. The small class sizes and personalized attention ensure that each child receives the support they need to thrive academically and socially. Looking ahead, I am confident that SR1 College Preparatory and STEM Academy will continue to provide an enriching and stimulating learning environment for my younger child as they prepare to enter kindergarten. The school's commitment to excellence in education and strong community environment and focus on STEM disciplines make it an ideal choice for families seeking a top-notch educational experience for their children. Provost Williams also is hands-on as a leader, and she goes door-to-door to recruit, and she tells the community as well about SR1. I urge the decision makers to consider the immense value that SR1 College Preparatory and STEM Academy brings to our community and to prioritize it continuous operation for the benefit of current and future students. Thank you for your attention on this matter.
Thank you. Next is Sophia Griffin.
Hello, everyone. For those that do not know, my name is Sophia Griffin, and I'm the current director of finance for SR1. Thank you, SR1 CPSA. So today, before my time, I would like to go over the three budgets, briefly go over the three budgets that you see before you the first one being a very fiscally conservative budget in which the MAEP calculation was drastically reduced, and along with the reduction, with the possible reduction from the legislation, and how Ms. Johnson, thank her for that, coming and explaining how that works. So the fiscally conservative budget completely slices even more so the anticipated amount from MAEP. You also noticed that from the previous board meeting, we wanted to make sure that we were being more than transparent in our calculations in terms of revenue and how the financial sustainability of SR1 CPSA will be carried out due to the, as we all saw, adjustment of the 138 students, which is a negative 682,266 coming from the MAEP fund. Well, in the fiscally conservative calculation, you will see that we slice it out even more, saying, okay, let's say that it is next to nothing. We can expect a little over 200K. We have no changes. We have no reason to see that the ad valorem change, payments will change. The long-term goal of the Bancorp South line of credit, along with the SR1 annual support, that is there as well in the fiscally conservative budget. And as you can see, with the revenues compared to the expenditures, there is a surplus. Also, with the amount of funding that was saved in year 1, 23, 24, we're projecting carrying over about $450,000 into the upcoming new year. Budget 2, taking Mrs. Johnson's explanation of how MAEP is funded, even with a 10.31% reduction, minus that adjustment of $682,266, roughly 500 something thousand, which again, that puts us at a plus compared to the expenditures listed, as well as the 458,000 projected coming over from year 1, still at a surplus. The third budget takes the same assumption from budget 2, but we decided to increase salaries and fringe and things of that nature, still a surplus. Each budget, well planned, different scenarios show surpluses and also show the amount of money coming over for our from 23 to 24, which is projected at 450K. I also would like to note that we did not include certain items in the revenue just because they are coming up the pipeline and it wasn't something that was substantially concrete as of this moment, which includes the $375K from loan from Mississippi Development Authority. Also, we have a current USDA loan sale for rural development, and the question being surrounded around the financials from the last meeting. We wanted to make sure we were very transparent in terms of how funding occurs and how we're not in the red now nor in the future. The ability of SR1 to be able to sustain, as a parent company, to be able to sustain SR1 CPSA is firmly rooted. You see the levels of financial support, as well as it is worth noting that SR1 is a recipient of the United States Department of Education Promised Neighborhood, which is a substantial amount to help go towards operating in our unrestricted funds, as well as SR1 Tech, which is our for-profit side of the business. Recently awarded a grant from MVP under the COOP Education, which is also for support of programs in SR1 CPSA, and that's what that will be used for. Like I said, it's also worth noting, we did not include the meal reimbursement. That is also coming down the pipeline as well, but the budgets do show something more concrete and substantial versus just a regular pledge. I know pledge is a hot ticket item, but I can pledge $1 million right now when I get it. So hence the line of credit. So that is where we are. Anyone anyone have any questions, I am here.
Questions? Any questions? And when we discuss this item, we may invite you back if you have questions then. But yeah, 'cause I know you're not going anywhere. So, okay, thank you. Okay, all right, now I think we'll hear from some parents. First up is Portia Johnson.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm not really didn't prepare anything. I'm just gonna speak off my heart about how I feel about SR1. I do have a kindergartner, a 5-year-old who's currently enrolled there, and it's been fantastic since day one. I took a big chance of stepping out from something I grew up in to put my daughter for something better because I know she can do better, and I want her to receive that help. So while attending SR1 and with the many field trips and the hands-on learning activities, my child has well excelled beyond measures that I would have ever thought she would have. As far as communication, she's learning how to express herself in ways that most kids, when you see them and they're upset, they can't tell you why, but she's able to stop herself and say, okay, this is why I'm mad. And she's been learning how to be nice to her peers and to share and things of that nature. And me as a parent, been working on it, and she has siblings. So someone is there that's giving her the extra support to sit her down and stop her and say, listen, no, this is not what you do. This is how you act. And she has positive role models and other kids that she also looks up to. So the SR1 coming to a rural area such as Kinston, Mississippi will be magnificent. I am born and raised there. I know where I come from. And I have been spreading the word of SR1 for more kids like mine to be able to come over and to get the learning that they really need. As in today's society, a lot of kids are also coming out artistic. This school being there and my community will help them a lot because artistic kids learn with their hands on something. So to give that child the extra time to sit down and actually to maneuver things and put it in their face, it will be something great for those artistic kids and their futures to come up as other great leaders. So if you would, and you guys find it in your heart to actually bless us and let us keep this school here in Kinston, Mississippi, we won't show y'all anything less other than what we can bring to the table. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Next is Mrs. Ozzie Williams-Smith. Hello. Hello.
For those that weren't here last time, I was here speaking on behalf of my daughter, Lonnie Smith. She is in the first grade. And it's our look. I'm about to cry, so I'm sorry. I don't think that you all understand how important this school is in this particular rural community. It's hard to find stuff for our kids. It's hard to get someone to actually that wants to understand your child. And I have not slept since this last meeting. My spring break was horrible. I couldn't do anything with my kids because the only thing I could think of was what their future was going to be if the school was not available for them. I don't have too much to say because this is saying enough, but I just wish that there was some possibility to move the needle to give us a chance because us as parents, we have been giving them everything that we could. We've been going to different people, spreading the word. We work together. We all work together as the parents to get people to understand what this is. Because they don't get it. They're scared. And we have to have time to actually let them know. And as we've been letting them know, they've been signing up. They've been coming. And they're coming by the groups. There's people actually taking their kids out of the school that they're in currently and enrolling them. That's unheard of at the end of the year. You know, so they see it because we see it and we're so passionate about it. I pray that you all give us the time to meet every expectation that you expect from SR1 because we will get it done. We just need that time to put it into play. I'm sorry for being emotional, but like I said, I had a son, and I'm worried about those 2 years. I have a 17-year-old son that's graduating from Channing Public High School right now, and I wish that this was available for him. Then he wishes it was available for him. He's jealous of what they're doing, and they're in the first grade. So again, I thank you all for listening to me. I thank you all for taking the parents' words into consideration, and that was crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And finally, Mr. DRG Scott will speak on behalf of Ambition Prep Renewal.
Good afternoon, Mississippi Charter School Authorizing Board, and thank you for your time and opportunity to speak today. My name is DRG Scott, and I'm the founder and executive director of Ambition Prep. I'm here to request that you accept the renewal committee's recommendation for a 5-year renewal of Ambition Prep. As you discuss our charter renewal, I'm excited to share our remarkable journey we've embarked upon and the invaluable impact we've had on our scholars and community in the unwavering dedication to educational excellence. Since our inception 5 years ago, Ambition Prep has shown academic, operational, and financial success, guided by our mission to ensure that all students have high-quality instruction in a safe and structured environment that sets them up for success not only in college, but also in life. Our holistic approach to education goes beyond just textbooks and tests. It's about empowering our scholars to become critical thinkers, compassionate leaders, and lifelong learners. Our dedicated team of educators and administrative support staff work tirelessly to ensure that every child receives the individualized attention and intensive supports they need to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. I urge you to consider not only the academic metrics and administrative procedures, but also the intangible essence of what makes Ambition Prep truly exceptional. You have in front of you a copy of our annual report, which highlights some of our successes in our journey on the 22-23 academic year. Ambition Prep agrees with the Charter Review Committee recommendation for a 5-year renewal. And we thank the Mississippi Charter School Authorizing Board, staff and partners for the thorough, informative, and organized process over the past few months. I extend my deepest gratitude to each of you, Charter School Board members, for your dedication to ensuring that every child has access to a quality education. And we invite you to visit our school at any time. Our scholars are there today for the solar eclipse, as well as preparing for state testing that we have next week. But you are welcome to visit our school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Okay, moving on to our business items. Our first order of business, this is a great segue, is to consider approval of Ambition's renewal recommendation. You've made some remarks already, Dr. Carmataria has, so I will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation report to renew Ambition Prep for a full 5-year charter term. With no conditions.
I so move Candy Robbins.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Jennifer.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, and now we will consider approval of the Clarksdale Collegiate Prep Charter Contract. And we have 2 Clarksdale items here. So this is number 1, then we'll go to number 2. So I will entertain a motion to approve this charter contract.
I so move Candace Robbins.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. And then item C is to consider approval of the Clarksdale Collegiate merger application. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Clarksdale's merger application.
So moved, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Candace Robbins.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Okay, all right. All right, so now we'll move on to item D, which is to consider approval of SR1 replication review. And we're going to have, I wanted to ask, I think 2 people have been designated to speak for the school. Ms. Sophia Griffin, if you wouldn't mind coming back up to the table, and Mr. Alyssa Hutton as well, the chair. Dr. Harris couldn't be here today, and she's designated 2 ladies to answer any questions we may have. So our last meeting was a little more open forum, but we're kind of resuming our more formal, discussion at the board table and decorum. And if we have questions for you, any board members, they'll ask you. But mainly we're going to be having a discussion. So, and we'll bring you in when we need to. So, Dr. Karmacharya, do you want to tee this up, or how would you like to start our discussion? We've had some, go ahead.
Yeah, I can. I'm happy to.
Okay.
I think the board has received a lot of information since we last met in March. And so you have the follow-up information from SR1. You have a copy of the letter from Dr. Harris and a copy of their bank statements or their end-of-month statements from the banks. You also have a copy of the spreadsheet that we asked them to complete that demonstrate whether or not a child has submitted a letter of interest or they are completely enrolled and submitted all the required documentation. You also have some additional information from them on their budgets, and Sophia referenced that just a few minutes ago, the 3 different budgets. The only thing I would flag for you in the revenue section would be that the revenues in the top portion of those budgets are anticipated revenues based on a lot on lines of credit and expectations with no backup detail that we have letters from some of those lenders, but we don't know what those lending terms would be. So that was one thing that I would flag for you on the budgets. And then if you have questions for me, specific questions, I'm certainly happy to answer.
Any questions for Dr. Karmacharya? Any questions for our guests here at the table from the material you?
So I know today, I heard 150 students enrolled, is that correct? Or interested in enroll, or in some version of
That's correct. And we have,
getting stuff done?
yes. And we're still enrolling, what we submitted, of course, is a working document. We have had parents who are scheduled to come in and complete enrollment even after we submitted. So this is an ongoing, as our parents have already demonstrated, this is an all-in motion and movement for the school. So it's a community push, and we are seeing positive results. We were actually able to participate in a community event just last weekend, had a lot of positive influence there. Families and parents, even from community leaders who don't have children or grandchildren enrolled, they have taken and pushed our school as well. So enrollment is going well. We let our parents know, and the community know our goal is to reach to 225 by the time we start for the school year 24-25. So enrollment has been met with our requirements that the board has set before us. And we're continuing to enroll.
So on the budget information provided, I think maybe at our last meeting, there was a reference to Bancorp South. And then in the letter, there was information provided that was Southern Bancorp.
That's the correct name.
Southern Bancorp, not Cadence Bank.
Not Cadence.
All right. And I think one of you may have mentioned some of the financial conversations you've had with people providing support. Have y'all had direct conversations with those?
We've had some direct conversations. I've had some direct conversations. A lot of it is pending on the outcome of today. We've also had some individuals who were already working with, who brought additional people to the table. And they let us know only thing they're waiting on is the outcome today, a positive outcome. And Ms. Griffins already mentioned the budget. She and Ms. Johnson actually, she spoke with her and she did get confirmation from her this time that she did speak with her. Conservative budget, everything is sound. We didn't even include some of the items that we could for support that we know we have, but we wanted to keep everything as conservative as possible. So you all will see there's a surplus now there'll be a surplus next year, and there'll be a surplus at the end of next school year as well.
Based on borrowed funds.
Not all
No,
borrowed,
not
no,
all borrowed.
no, we don't even have to have the 700,000, that Bank works out, Southern Bank works in. We don't even have to operate off of that. That's additional, just safety net, but we have enough where we won't not even have to touch that line of credit.
And to expand on that, the reason that was included was because of last board meeting, and even previously, it was, previously pledge. And as I said before, pledges are great, pledges are nice, and they are made with the best intent. But if something happens and an individual is not able to pledge, we wanted to show an alternative route that was also just as substantially concrete against that amount. And even to go beyond that, if we took that 700K away, SR1 will continue to commit its 350K, as well as SR1 Tech.
So, Ms. Hutton, what is your role with the school? What is your job there?
My role is,
Yes.
I'm not employed by the school, but I'm a supporter of the school. And I will say, everyone who supports the school, whether directly through employment or support, we're always proactive in our decision making.
So you're representing the school, so in what capacity are you representing the school?
I'm representing the school today as the board's representative. They asked me and Ms. Griffin to sit in today due to Dr. Harris's absence. So it was requested of the board.
Do you work for the nonprofit
I
or
work for the nonprofit.
Okay, so you're, okay, and then your pledge in the letter, is this, I guess you go by Dorlicent or?
I did make a pledge.
That's not you, so,
No.
okay, similar name, so Doricia Hutton pledged $25,000.
Yes, and it's consistent with the funding she has been providing to the parent organization for
Okay.
years.
That clears that up. Any questions?
So the letters of commitment were signed for the pledges that you have.
Yes, they were
Yeah,
included in your board document, and we provided additional ones in your folder today.
So in looking at those letters of commitment, if I'm reading it right, it looks like SR1, the nonprofit, appears to pledge $350,000 in funds, and then SR1 LLC appears to pledge $350,000 in financial assistance and services. So those being services, not money in the bank, in kind. And the 25,000, as I had mentioned. And I guess the estimation is there'll be carryover of unexpended MAP funds, and there's this estimate of 450,000. So the actual funds, like, I'm looking at that like 375,000 in actual pledged funds. Is that my understanding that correctly?
No, right, it's, you can go.
Except I don't know what the breakdown of from SR1 LLC, the 350,000 in financial, the in-kind and the financial assistance and services. I don't know what the breakdown is on, here's a check and here's some things we're gonna do for you.
So there's funding, on both ends, which have already been provided, in everything from resources, transportation.
But how much money of that would be provided? Like how much of that 350,000 is?
Actual,
Like a
we're
check.
talking monthly stipends. 350K, we're talking roughly 29,216 or 266, roughly 29,000 a month.
And that's included in the letter as well.
Okay.
And I would just like to add what Ms. Griffin said, based on those two amounts alone, that covers, the amount we have, the 25 pledges in addition, and then of course the 450 we're carrying over, that's just surplus, so we met the 682, adjustment that will be coming. And that's just not even including fundraising. So these are just hard numbers of supporters and individuals who are already have a history of donations.
I have a question, so I'm making sure from when I read the email earlier. You also got a commitment from, I think you said the Mississippi Development Authority, it's like 375,000. Plus, I guess there's an additional amount you need for on that letter, as well as
$75,000 from the Mississippi Charter School Association.
Yes, that's correct.
And then.
And those are services,
Southern,
those are services, in that letter, yeah.
yeah, and then.
I know there was a loan
Southern
to apply for,
Corporation, wait,
grant.
no.
It was
Southern
that-
Bancorp, yes,
Yeah.
which is the $700,000 commitment.
Up to,
Up to
Right,
$700,000.
That's right.
Right, okay, just making sure we have all the numbers. Okay.
And I was just saying, Ms. Griffin didn't include those in the budget, take conservative, so if we just take just our normal, givers, so if we take SR1, we take S1 Tech, if we take the donation, from Ms. Hudson, that covers the short, they have already given over a year, so that's in addition, would be the Mississippi Minority Development Authority, and Mississippi Development Authority, there would be the addition to the line of credit would be an addition, and then also, the Mississippi Association, that would be just addition. So we, with those three, I mentioned it first, S1, S1 Tech, and Ms. Hudson, those will cover. But just on their own, everyone else is just additional.
So you seem like you have a concern, I'm just curious as to what your concern is.
Because some of, there's more debt, the financial plan looks like it involves creating more debt. And the school wants to build a new building, you mentioned 2025, they're, I guess, breaking ground before then and a building opening 2025, is that what I understood in public comment? Okay. So I didn't see anything in the budget to account for like that plan to build a whole building, and this filling the shortfall, some of it in a big bit, some of it involves loans. And so there's already this issue of a shortfall, so it seems concerning to get into debt when you're already trying to close a gap.
Well, I thought the laws were a
Yeah.
safety, I thought they were a safety net and not something they would actually do.
no, I think they are what they need. If I read it correctly, SR1 will contribute, SR1, not the technology, will contribute $350,000 by the end of this year with a commitment of that again next year. So SR1 is who holds the charter for the charter school, and they're the not-for-profit. Then for the other one, the Mississippi Development Authority is a loan option that's not included in your budget, correct?
No.
Is that correct, yes or no?
It's correct, that was just another route, but.
Okay, so let me just finish those real quick and then answer Candace's question, and then we can fill in anything I missed there. So then, if that's correct, so then the loan is just another option if we needed it or if you guys needed it. Then it also appears that all of the support from SR1 Technologies is simply in kind. So SR1 Technologies, the for-profit, is going to support the school as well. Is that correct?
Yes,
So the for-profit is going to support the not-for-profit and then in turn support the school. Am I watching the money flow correctly?
they're going to directly support the school.
The for-profit, and okay, so somebody who's an attorney might have to help me understand how that's going to work since we don't allow for-profits.
Well, it's a donor.
It's a donor.
It's a
You're going to
donor.
have it as a donation,
It's a
okay?
donation.
It's an in-kind donation for back office support.
No, it'll be financial donation. So if we take the $350 from SR1 as a standalone, the $350 from SR1 Tech as a standalone, and then we take that's $700,000 right there, and then we add the $25,000 donation, which is what Ms. Hudson donates, and we're already at $725. So that covers our adjustment. We're not going into debt anymore with the school. The school will not be entering in any additional debt. So that covers the adjustment just there. So that's why Ms. Griffin did not include Mississippi Department of
You won't have to take out any
Yeah,
loans.
into there. She's not including that as the 3
Well, it's on your spreadsheet, it says currently including Bancorp South line of credit.
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
on one of the, yes.
and then applying for a loan for up to
Uh-huh.
$375,000, so.
But that
Right.
loan amount is not included. The reason the 700 came from Southern Bancorp was included was because of the conversations previously where pledge. We wanted something more concrete, but to even take that, you'll notice in this letter of support from the bank,
it says by December, because that's just another layer of protection for us. Not necessarily, hey, we have to go start expending $700,000 from the bank right now.
But you put it into your spreadsheet and then are saying, and look, we have a surplus at the end, and it's based on loans in there. So,
I have a budget right here that I can show you, take it out and move, and put the 725 there, and it will still be a surplus.
That's what our adjustment is covered, just if we take those three alone and not needing to move, if the concern is additional debt, that additional debt will not be placed on the school.
Still currently have it.
No, the school does not currently have any debt. So it's debt free.
So what you're explaining is that there are cash dollars, not in kind.
Right, cash.
The total sum 725-ish, right?
Yes.
And the loans, Southern Bank Board, are possible options for revenue should you.
Should we need it, and that would be, we outline a plan, a contingency plan, that would be the last step in the contingency. And this is not including any of our fundraising efforts, which would be just additional donations of financial services.
So I understand that very clearly when you and I, talk about it. I guess to Ms. Cook's point is the first part of this spreadsheet, it's got that $1,550,000. Right? See that?
1,050,000. Yes.
So where does that particular number?
That number comprises of just the line of credit and 350K support just from SR one. We, like I said before, since the conversation was so bridge, we wanted to do something on our family, and that for us was that 700K line of credit, because initially, previously, the question came about, well, how do we know SR one can support? And that's what that
So this number does include the 700,000 line of credit.
Yes.
And so the reason for that, if I'm understanding you correctly, is you wanted something more binding than just a pledge.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got the 350 from SR1, which is hard money, and we've got the pledge, which is a line of credit, which is more legally binding, I guess. But now you're also saying, over the course of the next little bit, believe there will be other sources of revenue that will require you not to borrow them.
Right, yes, we do have other sources of revenue that will not apply.
And some were included in your letters that we filed.
That is not accounted for in the hard money.
Right, right, yes.
did you have
Is that,
a hand up? I don't know.
Oh,
Okay, no, you're just, that's fine.
does that help clarify, at least on the 700? It is included, but
Just for
They
the
don't have
hard evidence, yeah, or just a binding contract versus 10 people saying, I'm pledging to this, it's kind of.
It's still not money in your hand. You don't have to say either that you either have.
This is what we asked for last time, like, this is specifically what we asked for, so I'm wondering as to what is not
Okay.
satisfying, like, what is the request? Because we did say we wanted to show proof of the funding.
Yeah.
Of how we didn't say loans, we didn't specify and say
Yes.
with private donors,
Uh-huh.
and so they presented that, and I feel like we're still trying to figure something out, it's already
Okay.
and taken care of.
And Chair Cook, that's why we, if we wipe out the loan, that's
Yeah.
the issue for you. That's why I was going to
Yeah.
350 from SR one.
Yeah.
The 350 from SR one tech, and the 25,000 from Ms. Sutton alone is enough to cover the adjustment, and that's hard money. And like I mentioned, those are history of givers. So it's not, as Ms. Robbins and Mr. Morgan has stated, it's not coming in, it's just a pledge or absolute. These are concrete numbers that will help sustain and give an accurate increase, to S1.
Have you ever considered changing your contract, doing an amendment to change the enrollment for the school? So, because like this coming year, you're going, basically, based on the number of students you had in the fall, there was, some might call it an over projection of how many students you're gonna have the following fall. So if you have 12 students this past fall, you projected 225 for the next fall. And that's, I'm just guesstimating, that's like 3 classes per grade for K, 1, and 2. And so when you're sitting in this fall with, like, I guess 2 really small classes of K and 1, had you considered, let's revise our contract and do an amendment, and maybe we'll only have 1 or 2 classes per grade next year? You know, if it's been this kind of slow going getting kids in, and I see right now there's 56 kids that look like they're fully enrolled with all their documents, and another looks like 95 to me in the pipeline. You know, hopefully they'll complete theirs, and that would, you know, bring up to, I think it was a little over 150, and that will possibly grow. But these ones that aren't completely enrolled yet, you know, maybe they won't all, but, you know, maybe they would. But, like, has that ever, because what's going to happen is, you know, Ms. Johnson presented in June, there's going to be numbers presented yet again to MD for then the following year. And if you use the same strategy you've been using, I think you're going to add another grade, which is another 75 kids, you're going to be projecting 300 kids, you know, in 2026. So in June, if you're not near your 225, or have you talked about revising your contract, submitting a contract amendment to the board and kind of right-sizing it, so you don't have this, maybe we'll get a loan, maybe we'll get a grant, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll get, you don't have to worry about this gap, in year to year.
And I can answer that
Yeah.
based on what the board has discussed for the meetings I have attended. And I will say 69 who have completed full enrollment today. So 69 students have completed full enrollment today. Just
Different from the
56
spreadsheet.
on the
because
spreadsheet.
56 on the spreadsheet.
Okay. Yeah. And then also that's why pre-K is so important. And I'm gonna get to answer what the board, so that's why pre-K was even important to the board too during their discussion. With our boarding slots for pre-K pool, that automatically rolls over 40 students into K for the following year, which leaves only 35 to fill for K. In addition, while we're still working, the board has considered doing an amendment in enrollment. And that's something that they have discussed that they would be willing to do based on conversations that I've heard during their board meetings. To answer your question.
Do you know if
And
it
these
had,
were previous.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I would just say our board is committed to doing what's best for our students and scholars. They're committed as well. So
Because what's working, I guess, if you keep, if this dynamic keeps happening, we don't know if it will or it won't, where the actual enrollment ends up being like far short of what the projected was, kind of different from any other school, really. Then there's it's almost like you're sort of borrowing from the future it just doesn't seem right, I guess, or responsible.
and I can
Yeah.
just some things that the board has said too, not to hit those.
Okay,
questions
hold on.
here.
Just let me pull that thought.
I just have some,
Yeah,
a couple other questions for food for thought for the
Yeah.
board, just to reflect on.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about how the school has thought about budgeting for repayment of the loans. If you take out the HELOCs, or you go to that loan, not against a HELOC, but a line of credit, to do that with one of the banks that have submitted a letter of support. Have you thought about how you will pay those back, what those terms will be? And then related to that, is SR1 going to be committed to paying back those loans, or SR1 Technologies? And are they financially cash heavy so that they can take on debt for a significant number of years to the tune of $1 million or $700,000 or $300,000 outside of back office support in terms of cash?
Yes, so SR1 in cash alone, not even count back office support, has already provided $350,000 already to the school this year, and we still have 3 months left for April, May, and June for the fiscal year. And so they've already given that money.
And let me ask a follow-up then, because last time we met, we talked about the audit for SR1, and you said the audit for SR1 was just about ready, and that you guys had been working on that. So I just wondered where you are on that with your work on the budget.
Budgets are underway.
They're underway.
Parent company is on one.
SR1 and SR1 Technologies both, or?
Yes. And we do have the financial resources at SR1 to cover. If we take, what we've already provided, we have over in this briefing to mention over $500,000 in unrestricted funds. And all of those do not have to go through to the school. Those would be unrestricted funds that we
Where are
have
those?
access to. And that's not included on my budget because we didn't include everything that we have that's available in SR1 to be included in this because we're staying fiscally conservative. As Ms. Griffin mentioned.
From SR1 Tech or
from
SR1?
SR1.
So the 600 and some odd $1,000 that was on the latest audit, did the 350 some odd $1,000 come out of that? So there's a budget?
No, this is a completely different budget that we're operating off of the 350 has come from. So we have financial resources, we have ways beyond the financial resources to cover that, and the school will not incur any debts. So payment will be made by SR1 if it gets to that would be a last payment scenario. Like I mentioned, we still have not
We'll have to
even started with our funders for donations.
So at what point, it's a question for you, at what point will the school be audited? Because the school
The school
is,
will be
I'm not,
audited.
this is really a question for Dr. Comacharya, because at some point, the school needs to be its own operating entity and financially supported. So when will that
They-
audit, I guess, be due to the authorizer board? or-
October this year,
This year,
October
okay.
1. And we'll audit the financial health of the school against the 7 financial indicators, long-term, short-term financial health. So we'll look at the days cash on hand and the rest of the metrics that are involved in that.
And
So
I know you
including
want
your
to-
enrollment. So,
So I'm circle back to the amendment that.
Yes.
Ms.
Yeah.
Wood mentioned. Because I think that's a good idea, we move forward with this, like, I mean, you really think about that, right? And it's, if I understand the timing of all that, it would be, the final number has to be done in November, right? That's what we heard from Mr. Johnson. So, early fall, like, you gotta be thinking, all right, we now know what the reality is. We need to be considering making that correct with our estimation for public funding.
Yes.
That's, we understand nonprofits get private money, right? We don't control that. We're the state authorizer. But we do have an obligation to make sure that, the public money is appropriate.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that y'all get as close to your estimate as you do enrollment. That's the whole point of this making, right? Because that's our obligation, right? And so, if we move forward with this, and we appreciate all the information you're giving, I think you're showing that you want to do it, right? But we need to see that, in a few months, if we vote on this the way we're kind of talking about it, because that's really important, so you don't continue to snowball, right? I think y'all understand that, but it needs to be said, because it's very important.
If I was to say, I'm pretty sure Mrs. I would agree. We don't want to have this conversation again. Not being rude or disrespectful.
Yeah.
But
We don't either.
I think we can all agree it's taking something out of all of us, and realistically speaking, seeing that trend, the board, it's our CPSA's board being the studious board that they are, it has already been on it's definitely something that's still on the table.
It's just never been mentioned, I guess, as it's curious to me. It's also curious that, like, in the fall, when you had 12 students, and I guess the final numbers had to be submitted for next year, there was no, hey, we need to do something different here. And because that did not happen, you are, got front-loaded funds for students. You luck, like charters get to project, so you got to project those 75 more kids for another grade, even though you only had, let's say, 6 in each grade. And so some might, that didn't seem like, I think it would have been better to do something back then. We might not be right here, right now. But then I think you just be in a position where you would be owing money to ND, but it sounds like you have all these other sources of money, so maybe that's not an issue.
And when we did start this year, we did let the office know that our enrollment numbers would be low. Mr. Green and I know Dr. Taylor emails communicated with that our enrollment numbers would be low. As some of our parents, Ms. Smith, Ms. Dorn have already mentioned, and they can speak to this better than I can. But with any situation, if you take Hampton, you have to get individuals out of a mindset. And when a mindset, and you only have one district that you've been allowed to attend, you don't see yourself coming out of that. So now there's something new, and for all our parents, or there knows something better for them in their child. So now it's getting others. A mindset is something that you work on. And so we've seen that from last year where we did have students who did have to go to other places because we weren't sure that we were going to be allowed to open, to where we are now with projections for next year, 24, 25, and they are still coming in. I mean, we've had parents to call who are moving into the district from other counties, and they're saying, I need to get my stuff in because I don't want it to fill up. We had a parent who's transitioning from Philadelphia, Mississippi to Canton, Mississippi. She came in last week and completed all of her paperwork, all of her documents. And so it is that mindset that is being changed. Individuals knowing, individuals being excited. And a mathematician at the community event we did before, she didn't have any children there in Canton, but she was excited because she knew the potential with starting off with a STEM school in elementary could project for students there. So not being able to speak for the board, but knowing the conversations that they have had, they would be looking for an adjustment. And there are also individuals who are quite savvy when it comes to budgets. You have Dr. Laura Harris, who has been in the educational arena for over 20 plus years. You have Dr. Tim Ward, who is at Millsaps, and he has worked hand in hand with the president's office, so he's overseeing a lot of budgets there for Millsaps. You also have Ms. Carol Harris, who is building the economic groundwork for the state of Mississippi, along with Ms. Dolores Hay. So knowing the importance of being physically conservative and also taking care of the state funds, believe me, they have a history. Dr. Ward is private, but hey, he understands this. So those enrollment adjustments, as I mentioned, has been something that the school board has discussed. I don't think they have any objections to that, and that would pass with a motion in second. And we have met the requirements that have been made for us in enrollment for our students that was set for March and that was set for April. And we've also met our adjustment, which shows that we'll be in a surplus. And like Ms. Leah mentioned, just being fiscally conservative, I just took those three who are hard deadline. We will have those funds in hand for the school.
May I change the direction of this
Yeah.
from a financial aspect
Yeah.
to something else, since I am a former educator?
Yes, ma'am.
How many students do you have right now?
Yes, ma'am, and it was on what Ms. Thornton is 24
24.
students. It's on that sheet. Yes, 24.
You have 24 students right now.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have that written down. Where are these students housed? Where are they being educated? Tell me what facility.
Yes, ma'am. We're in a
And a description of that for 24 students.
Okay, so we are in a temporary location. A temporary location that was chosen was for full capacity and growth beyond our full capacity. So they are housed at St. Paul A&E Zion Church in Canton, Mississippi, actually in the heart of Canton, Mississippi. We have exclusive access to their Family Life Center and 5 additional classrooms and office space. They have partitions in our school colors, the Vanguard blue, and they are partitioned off. We have wing desks. You go in, you'll see all their work and their artwork display, their academics. And so they're housed there in their Family Life Center, but also there's small rooms for breakouts and things of that nature. But they spend the majority of the time in the Family Life Center. Yes, ma'am.
But for right now, as a classroom,
Yes, ma'am.
you have 24 students in how many classrooms? 1, 2.
We have a K
classrooms.
class and a first class.
Okay, but is that one classroom that's divided into 2 spaces?
They're in 2
2
spaces.
separate
Yes, ma'am.
classrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any technology available for those 2 groups?
Yes, ma'am. We have Promethean board, we have iPads, we have technology.
Okay, so you have 24 now. You're projected next year to have 150. Is that what you were,
We're projected for 225, we have 150 who have completed their,
that have completed all
they're
their?
completed their.
That started.
Interest. They started.
Pardon?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry, okay. They completed the interest, the initial step. 56 are completed their registration.
56 and 72 or something are like in the
The
process.
process of completing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got 24 now, you're hoping to have 150. Is that what because I'm getting numbers thrown at me. Here's
225.
76, 25, 50, you know, so we're at 24 now.
Yes, ma'am.
We're looking at 150. What projection?
They're contracted to have 225.
That's why I said the
Your
225.
That's how much NAEP,
225.
the calculation, yeah.
I wasn't trying to confuse you,
Minus.
that's why I said
Okay.
225.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Where are these where am I getting 150?
It was with the board from
This
the,
year, that's what
March,
they're set this year.
from the March meeting, our deadline was to make 100, which we did. And so they told us for April, we need to have 150, so that's for your 150.
So that's where we get 150.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are these students going to be placed?
Yes, ma'am. So they will be placed in the same location when we originally, the selection was made. The fire marshal has already approved for, even for next year, to reach our capacity, that it's on to carry those students as well.
Okay. Do you have teachers that are set up that are under contract or proposed contract for next year?
So we have started that process. We have, those who have completed all of their online documentation. We're waiting on verification letters from MDE to, ascertain how many years they have. And once we get those in, that's all we're missing from some. The board will make an official agreement letter to them, but we have started that process, and we have, a lot of teachers who are interested, in coming on board. Those who are.
By a lot, what do you?
To fill the slots that we will need for our, it'd be 9 classrooms for K first and second, it's 9 classroom teachers.
And these are certified
Yes,
teachers?
all our teachers this year were 100% certified, and we will have 100% certified next year. Yes, ma'am, that's important to us.
It's important to us.
Yes, ma'am. So we were at 100% this year, and we'll be at 100% next year as well.
Ms. Whittier,
Yes, thank you.
we have pictures from our visit if you would like
I
to
would
see
like
those.
to see that.
Can you send those to the phone? Pictures from, oh, you can't right now, but, yeah, her computer's
okay.
right here, but, so it's, like, Ms. Hutton says, a family life center, so they're separated by some tall banners that say SR1 on them. So it's not a partition, so to speak. It
Yeah,
is,
partitions,
they
not
weren't
paper
partitions
dams, yeah.
partitions when we went, they were just separate, to visit in the room. So it's a big family life center for better, I don't know how else to describe it, but that's probably the best way. And she can email those, her computer's tied up right now.
And you mentioned the fire marshal said that there's enough space for 225 children plus the staff, but what's gonna be the configuration to go to 9 classrooms and whatever other space you may need for these, kids?
So they,
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, sorry.
That's fine.
Second.
so that has been mapped out, and, partitions are up now for those 2 classrooms, and we've already started mapping out that process, administration plans for next year.
I think going down rabbit trail. What was the purpose of the meeting for the approval, for the revocation review? Like, what items are we actually looking at? We're talking about a lot of grants.
Well, we're talking about
I'm
two,
trying to keep up.
we're talking about 2 things primarily. We're talking about enrollment to begin with, which is what prompted the
Right.
conversation
And
because
they
of
met
the, that was in the fall.
right?
And
No, I'm
then,
saying they met what we asked.
okay, but you asked what
Yeah, but-
prompted it. So enrollment was the primary thing that prompted the conversation to begin with. Enrollment is directly related to the financials, which led us into the financial conversation. So you heard Letitia this morning or this afternoon talk about how MAP is impacted by enrollment and so forth. And so then, of course, there are plans for facilities. They mentioned last time about how they were gonna move into a new facility. And then I think Ms. Cook asked about the facilities. So I think they're all interrelated, but specifically to the letter and the question at hand, there was an initial letter, a follow-up letter, and then I think another follow-up from there. So I think they had
So I don't know, I guess it's kind of one of those things, I just want to make sure people are on task and on focus on what we had agreed to talk about prior, and I think some of those conversations probably would, in my opinion, just would be going to visit or having another sidebar conversation with them instead of having to be doing the board meeting, some of these questions already.
That's your call.
I think they fall under broad kind of management issues, because of this, because we're in this situation now, or the school's in this situation now. Being such low enrollment in the fall. I mean, that's a big concern of mine, that there was such low enrollment in the fall, and the projection was made still to go, to grow more than 10 times the size. And the schools got their charter, several years ago. So it had a longer runway than other schools, and so it's just a big question mark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so to
Yeah.
what you're saying, I do remember the last time we met, what was mentioned was that I think in the spring of last year, or was it, you guys were asked to stop recruiting students, and so that became very interruptive. Or what was that? You mentioned that I thought earlier.
Stop.
No, we were-
Not recruiting, it was asked to stop.
I asked Mr. Green at that time in the spring if he wanted to consider another delayed opening because they had not met their enrollment targets. They had a runway, what Jean said just then, of 2 years. They opened in 2020, and then they had all of that opportunity to begin the recruitment process. They were gonna open in 2022, then they delayed their opening until 2023 because they had not met all of the pre-opening requirements. And then in spring of 23, I met with Mr. Green and Dr. Harris, as a matter of fact, and we had conversation about the importance of having enrollment on target and meeting those targets and how it impacts financials. At that time, they were still planning to get some modulars from Louisiana and have them shipped into another place and location. They still had not committed to a facility, and that was early spring, somewhere around March, April. And we know then that if you're going to close the school, you're gonna have to or if they're gonna delay, you're gonna have to let the people go that you've already hired. People need to make decisions, families and adults that are been hired by the school. So I asked them at that time if they would consider delaying again and submit a request to the board to delay their opening, because clearly they weren't ready at that point in time to open their doors, and they were insistent that they were ready financially and that they would have the children that they needed to be able to open the doors to boys and girls. We went out and did a visit. We did go out. We met with see Terry back there. We met with Ms. Thornton and some others during that day. And again, we were just assured that we're making progress. We're going to have enough kiddos, and of course, I wouldn't have known unless I looked at that immunization record in October, or in September, whenever that happened, because the first month's enrollment is not officially due. We wouldn't have had that until later to know what their MSIS, and they had a challenge with MSIS. The system that they had purchased did not align to MSIS. So they had to go back and buy another program product so that they could insert or input all of their data appropriately so that MDE could read their enrollment and demographic information. So that was another little hurdle that they had to get through in order to get operational. And then I think at some point in time, they were able to secure the building there off the square. There were 2 churches that you guys had talked to, and one maybe fell through, and then you ended up at the Mount Zion, I think that's right, St. John, whichever one that one was, where y'all ended up off the square, and then had the facility there for the children. And I don't know about the school food service, if they've made that leap yet or not, so.
So Mr. Padilla is working, and what I was mentioning, Dr. Hayes talked about, so on June the 15th of 2023, Mr. Green and Dr. Kane, and Ms. Claire's input on that too. Just to reference some of the things Mr. Green says, although it's unlikely that we'll achieve our initial enrollment goal, I strongly believe that proceeding with the schools opening this year is crucial. By doing so, we can initiate the scaling process, build community trust, and establish a strong SR1 CPSA brand that includes word of mouth referrals, which goes back to what some of our parents have also noted. It's important to note that we have dedicated staff and educators working full-time on recruitment efforts, supported by our comprehensive branding and marketing campaign. Additionally, we have conducted a physical feasibility analysis and identified in-kind support to ensure the viability of the plan. And they're going to discuss some other things, and then, so.
I think that was when we had conversation about your first board meeting, because the board had not actually met yet. And so the governing board of the school hadn't met yet at that time to approve bylaws and some other things that were incredibly important to the school's operations. And so I think that's when we were asking about when was the first board meeting going to be, and clarifying some conversations around that. I believe our meeting was actually April the 11th. I go back and look at the agenda from that time.
Oh, this was.
That was after that.
And you sent the request, for the email on June 7th for the documents you read.
Yeah, but those additional documents, that's right. For the bylaws and things like that. So that's right.
So I think this is me talking to myself. But I think it's recognizing this is my second meeting. I do think it's fair to say, at least from what I'm hearing, like, there's a lot of things that probably could have and should have been done differently, like moving up to where we are now, but they weren't. So now we have to think about like where we're going, right? And we've asked SR1 to do a lot of different things. Y'all started that process for going, and they vet that to some level. I think one of the biggest things here for me is the certainty of what happens next year. Right? We're in April. We kind of talked about this a little bit. Like we're in April now. Like we don't know long term if SR1's going to be successful or not. We just don't know. But I think personally they've done enough to tell me that like we can remove the uncertainty for the next school year. Understanding that amendments may be required to the contract, these other lots of other things that have to happen. I mean, it's starting this business, right? But in order to do that, it sounds like it will help them both from an enrollment standpoint and a financial standpoint. Whether they meet all their goals or not remains to be seen, but it at least removes that uncertainty of like what happens in May, what happens in June, all these kind of things. Understanding also we may be back here at some point, right? I mean, this isn't like we're not worried about it anymore, right? So that's where I'm at in terms of yeah, we could have done things differently. Maybe things could have looked differently. But now we got to look at next year. The best thing I think we can do for a school in April is to remove uncertainty or just close them out.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? It's like one way or the other.
Yeah.
That's kind of my general thoughts.
Any other closing thoughts on anyone else? Any other board members? Okay. So I'm wondering what our options are in terms of our action today. So we don't meet again until June.
Right.
And the school is currently under the revocation review. I guess they're in revocation review status. Is that?
That's right.
And I don't know at what point that, the timeline, I guess, for that. We do want certainty for the parents. That's like number one. I think we all are in the same place about that. I mean, I would just make that assumption. And the staff, of course. I still have questions. I'm not fully comfortable with this budget because there's a lot of anecdotal stuff that's been talked about here that's not necessarily on the page. And I do see debt. I see I have a concern about what the projection is going to be for next year, and then what the reality is going to be. Because had the school, I know it matters of what they did in the fall. Because had the school not projected 225, they would be owing money to Indy. They just said we're projecting 50. There are 150 kids, or 138 would have been backed out of their allocation. I mean, I hope I'm saying that right. That's how I see it. So I would, if all, most board members don't feel like, which I'm kind of picking up, that they can or want to make a decision today about revoking the charter for the school, I still would want to see the school. We continue to review it, because I don't feel like this is like a closed case today.
But I thought,
Yeah.
doesn't Dr. Lisa, doesn't she out there each month or some meet with the leaders at the charter school regularly to kind of?
Not on things like this, not at this
Okay.
detail. So they do have to submit quarterly financial statements to us, so we have to have that. We have to have, that's our, the next one is the end of April 30th. I think it's the next deadline for the submission of the quarterly financials. Then they'll submit a final budget for next year for June. So we would have that for the following year. We have their audit, which I mentioned earlier, which will be an audit of the school, and that's not due till October. Currently by statute, that's an October 1 deadline. And then we would look at the health of the school against the framework, the financial framework, and then we would also look at the school's performance for its organizational performance as well as its academic performance. And that would be your site-selected growth indicators that they've chosen that we look at quarterly. Some schools do quarter, some do every 3 months, depending on what benchmark assessment that they've done. So that would be, they would only have kindergarten readiness because that would be the only data that they would be subject to from a state perspective at this point in their grade level configuration. So to answer your question, yes, we do look at the health of the schools in a variety of different ways, but that's primarily in the fall after the year has gone by and we have data to look at from state assessment data, their year-end data in terms of their benchmarking data or site-selected growth, and sometimes schools do a school optional growth indicator as well that is built into their academic framework, which is a multiple measure to look at another way to determine whether or not the school is academically successful. Some schools use that, some don't. So yes, we will continue to look at those things just like we would for all of our schools.
I guess I was just saying that I guess it's already regularly monitored, and so there was something just in this case.
This is really unique.
So I guess I'm saying that fall, if you saw another red flag, then we would just come back and talk about it again, or maybe.
Well, the board has authority right now under the contract that they have with the school. The board has authority to do corrective action plan. They have authority to continue to keep them on the revocation review. To do you have authority to do whatever you need or would like to see the staff take care of for you, as board members, to give you some level of confidence or a additional touch point with the school leaders or with enrollment, whatever that looks like to you all. So, but you certainly have that option and authority to do that outside of what I just shared.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I don't foresee, I don't recommend any contingencies for this because you're actively aware of certain items that we would need to be aware of for our schools.
We wouldn't.
In a sense, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying like you're gonna get into the weeds of every single thing, but you have enough data and information to be able to say that enrollment still didn't really need to do that, or the financial.
I won't know
budget.
official enrollment until October of next year.
And so if I'm trying to figure out I would feel like there would be a good time to kind of see, hey, let's see your growth.
And that's what I'm
that.
saying,
Yeah,
you all, if
So,
there's something in
I
there.
think we could
Yes.
end revocation proceedings today and start them again in the fall if we wanted to, right?
Or you could do some level of intervention. We have an intervention ladder that's built into which is what you're using right now. So you could do something along those lines, or you just have authority to do a corrective action. There is, and I'm speaking on behalf of our own attorney here behind me, but, and Amy may have something she wants to add.
Can I give you some thoughts? I have a few options maybe.
Yep.
I'd say on the one end of the spectrum, you in the revocation review, and that they go on their merry way. You can do that today. You could keep the revocation review on the other things, keep the revocation, I've gotten far other things. You could say, sorry, I'll propose. Sort of on the other end, but it sounds to me like maybe we're backing up that, not that that's my place to say about that. But sort of on the other end of things, you could extend the revocation review until maybe early 2025. So they get a good lump of time to kind of see how things are going to go. You could also take a moment and say, all right, well, we're going to take them out of revocation review and put them down to notice of concern on the intervention ladder. And so
But can you say that part again?
you could take them from revocation review down to notice of concern on the intervention ladder and ask them to continue to do some kind of either meetings or other types of items you'd like the staff to keep up with over whatever period of time that notice of concern would be open. I think that covers everything. Y'all have any questions or?
I have a question. So we can't compel the school to do a contract amendment to change their enrollment. So right now they're contracted, that's just for 225 students next year, and then the following year 300, and the following year after that 375. I forget what grade will you go up to? Fifth. Okay, so like 75 each year. So if they don't voluntarily do a contract amendment, then when MDE asks for enrollment projections, what's on the paper is what will be submitted.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I just don't want what happened this past year to happen again. And so so I sort of feel like I want some leverage there so that it doesn't happen. So
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Mr. Turner. If we did a notice, if we reduced this to a notice of concern, would it allow us to re-engage revocation next year? Should there be continual
You
issues?
do that,
So we could do that whether we,
if we end it.
even if we did do the notice of concern, we could just end it and pick it back up if we still have this problem that I think is a problem potentially in the fall.
Right, yeah.
Good.
Start anytime.
And I was just gonna ask you, because I'm gonna take your concerns back to Dr. Harrison and the board. If you have any more outside of the contract amendment you would like me to share with them, I'm more than happy to take those back. I know you said you had some additional concerns.
Well, I mean, that's me. Like, you
I
know,
agree with you.
continuing to project, over project, you know, get funds that makes up for the fact that you didn't have enough in the next year, and keep doing that. And once you get to your final year, you're gonna owe that money. And it's not the other schools don't do it. It's not practice. It takes money away from the rest of the schools in the whole state, including the charter schools. Yeah, and so that practice, I don't do that, whether intentional or not. I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but like, I don't want to see it happen again. And I just feel like I would feel very irresponsible as a board member to just kind of not address that and not have, you know, and.
It's a valid
Yeah.
concern. I'm not pushing that against the
Yeah.
concern. It's just one of those things too. They are, I see Onward as they are being publicized, as more parents are being engaged into the work we're doing. Even this year when they have a lot more students, the word is gonna get out. And so from my opinion, because I remember after I heard what they did, I was looking to see if my kids could yeah. But it's just one of those things of like, I think as the word is getting out, because it's a very unique type, the STEM is very unique, and a lot of parents and people are attracted to that. And so I don't think, and that's why I said the last time, I don't think enrollment will be a problem, just because now that they've successfully, they haven't, I guess, completed 1 year, and if people, the public knows, hey, they're opening and fully open again for 2024, and you know, I anticipate a waiting list. So you're anticipating, you know,
I don't know. That's a question.
I'm
Yeah.
anticipating a waiting
Yeah.
list, you know, lottery type situation in the future, just because it seems like they're doing a good job.
And in a perfect world, that would be, what we would want to happen. My concern is the bills are going to keep building, and we have an obligation to the taxpayers of Mississippi as well. So we have several burdens on us. Parents, administrators, this is not a piece of cake.
Right.
We have a lot on our plates right now, and I don't know, there's just,
And I
I'm torn, I'm really torn.
And also, we need to be equitable among all the schools, all the charter schools,
Exactly.
and you know, hold everyone to the same standard, and so,
Because from the
you know.
list, I mean, everybody, it was a couple other schools that didn't meet their numbers, so, you know, I know it's a big.
Yeah, way, yeah.
One school was 137.
Yeah.
And there's 138.
Yeah, so, yeah, but they had a higher number, but I do, so it's kind of one of those things, you know, but I do understand, like, it's a very big difference. And so, with that being said, I don't know, I think that, that you have parents and you have the, community that wants to go forward with it, as well as teachers and leadership there, and,
you know, I feel pretty confident and good about this year. And if not, if we come to December, October, and it doesn't look good, as Amy said, I mean, we can come right back here. It's just,
and
That's
shut
just-
down in October.
well, I mean, we don't have to shut down in October. I would think that we could at least finish out in May. Or, I mean, if we had to do that. I mean, because we're living in, it's this what if world that you guys keep bringing up. It's just kind of like, I'm not sure how fair that is. Yeah, because it's kind of like, why can't we be optimistic? Why do you have to look at it
Yeah, well,
in
because
a way?
I'm not being pessimistic, I'm being realistic, in my point of view.
And so what would prevent them from, like, I understand, like, from last year, or this year's enrollment. So I'm trying to figure out why with the new publicity and all the other actions, I think Terry mentioned some strategies that they had in place of getting the word out. And so with that being said, I mean, they have plans, and everything that we asked of them. And so it feels like they're in a disciplinary state right now. We're still making them pay a debt that is almost like you can never be satisfied. So I don't know, it's just, I want to make sure we're serving them well.
And I want to make sure that we're serving our other schools.
I agree.
Well.
And I mean, we have other schools here. We can ask them. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not gonna do that, but you get what I'm saying? Like, I consider myself a person that has, the way I've, you know, advocated for SR1, I've done that for all the other charter schools. I've been very consistent in the way that I vote and in the things that I say. So I'm gonna be consistent every time.
And I will say, in our recruitment plan, we actually out-recruited what we're scheduled to be. At this point, with what we submitted to the board in December, we're past our recruitment goals.
And also to your point, Mrs. Robbins, you know, initially, in terms of the effort and the recognition, initially, the community, even though it's almost CPSA sitting right in the middle of a neighborhood, yes, they thought that it was a daycare initially.
Or private.
Yes, yes, and so we've had to work extremely hard against that narrative and, you know, put that message out there. And so far, as Penny Dorton has discussed several times, that effort has worked.
And here, just with the bank statements, if you wanna, look back over those, if you have any questions, as you can see, we're not pulling anything but food costs and payroll. So we're being very, we respect the state's money, we respect all funders and donors' money. So I share that with you, and so that's one reason why you will only see that solid thing coming out for the school year.
All right, let's recap with maybe our options and what our action may be today. Did you want to add something, Dr. Commissaria?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
there's just
Yeah.
one other thing. If the board chooses to continue with a revocation review or a corrective action plan or a whatever the language is that the board determines to go forward with, then I would recommend that we go back and look at the pre-opening requirements and ensure that every single one of those pre-opening requirements were met, including the commitment to ensuring there's not a conflict of interest among board members or among the two entities, because I know that was one thing that was supposed to have been cleaned up that, to my knowledge, has not yet been. So I'm not saying go back and have to do your bylaws over and not saying those kinds of things, but to take a look at anything that we might have had questions about or didn't get the all the data, then maybe the board could include those things in the corrective action or whatever steps you decide to take. But so that you'll have all the information, I think that's really important. That in order for you to make a good decision and use professional judgment to protect the taxpayers and to protect the public interest and the students in particular, then I think you have to have all the information to make a good sound decision. And my biggest concern is around enrollment and financials, and the financial health of the school. We don't have enough academic data to know where and what they're going to look like. We don't have enough organizational data to know we do have financial information and we do have questions about that financial information that's been presented. We know that that's soft money, a lot of it that they presented in their budget. And so those remain my biggest concerns about having to go out and and ask for a loan in the event that they needed to, all schools have to get loans, and that's not unusual. All charter schools have to get support outside. I think it's the conditions around this one in particular. They were very different in their enrollment. Initially, when you compare the two schools that opened in 23, you have a chart that demonstrates the difference. I think one school was at between 40 and 50% that opened in 23, and the other school, SR1, was like at 1%. So there was a significant difference between the two schools that opened, one in Natchez and one in Canton, in terms of their year one opening enrollment. So you have that for comparison, additional data and information.
So my concern is, and maybe I didn't understand when we met last time, I assumed when Marcy was here, because she mentioned her financial concerns, and then Jean, you did as well, and the enrollment concerns as well. And so we gave them, hey, well, this is what we need. I assumed it was to satisfy whatever concerns everybody had. And then we would come back. If they met them, we were gonna move forward. If they did not meet them, then there would be another conversation that we had. And so now it feels like we're moving the goalpost. If we do not, I just feel like that was kind of the exchange, and I could be totally wrong. So let me know if I misunderstood our last meeting. So I would love to honor what we.
My understanding is that we would ask for additional things to happen, which have happened, and we would look at it. There was no guarantee on what we would think about those things or where they were at. One of the main things that I know we talked about was the enrollment process and all the things that would be, we spent some time talking about the additional documents and whatnot. And so, we wanted to see more complete enrollments. We wanted to see more people committed, which I believe we have seen more. It's still.
And now more additional. So I'm wondering, when does it end? Though? Where do we finish? When is it enough?
Well, 56 fully enrolled students,
But we're
4
talking about
months.
right now.
Yeah.
They're still active.
Oh, I know.
That's what I'm saying. So
I get it.
Here's my thought,
It doesn't-
because
doesn't-
I think the concern about public money, which I think you two have mentioned, I've mentioned, it's legit, right? We have to be concerned about this.
Yeah.
But the adjustment for next school year's already happened. There's absolutely nothing that's gonna change that, right? And so if we remove the certainty, the uncertainty right now, by handing the revocation, we give them a chance, because there's still time until November to try to figure out what this amendment, which needs to happen. You don't need to hear that. Said it twice. But which needs to be considered, right? Because you have time to file that, but then that allows them to get readjusted for the following school year, which allows us to meet our obligation of protecting public money. Because there's nothing we can do about next school year, right? The only thing we can do now is try to get this to a spot in the fall where they can get readjusted to where they're appropriately spending the public money they're supposed to get. Knowing a lot of this other money's got to come from other private sources, right? So that's my take on the situation. I don't remember. Yeah, I agree with you. That was the general thought when we left that meeting, but it was kind of left open, we didn't quite know what we were going to do, right? Because the other option is June we shut them down, August we shut them down, which doesn't really benefit anybody, right? Because then we've wasted public money, and then we've also hurt the kids or hurt the students and all the other different things. So I don't know how to craft this, but I think in order, maybe another ground here, but try to meet all the different concerns, because I think you hit it, there's a lot of them, right? Is we think about a way to remove the revocation, whether we go to a notice of concern or we don't, it doesn't matter to me, because I think we have the authority to come back anytime and do anything, right? But do that, and then we've sent the message that you gotta think about this. We can't force you, but just do that, and then even maybe we schedule a visit to go see them in the fall while there's still time. And everybody go, if we can. I know there's schedule problems and all that, but if we can, just go see. Let's go see how many kids are actually there. We start counting heads, right? But that way we get to see what's happening while y'all are considering this amendment. And it allows us to at least get to a spot to gather some more information, I think. Remove the uncertainty, let them go, gather some more information, and still meet all of the concerns that we have on this public money. You know, I don't know how to craft that into a motion, even if that's something that y'all would even want to do, but that's the kind of thought I'm thinking of, like, you know, giving them certainty, let's go see it, because I would agree, you know, the facility issue is a great question, I want to see it. You know, what kind of partitions we do, you know, those kind of things, you know, I don't know. And that can still be done in a time period where we can still be concerned about the money for the next school year.
Right.
Because that's really what we're talking about at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just taking a quick break. So you gave us some options on a continuum.
Well, I've
Yeah,
already shared where I am. I would love to hear where Jennifer is
Okay.
and you are.
I thought I said let's hear from Jennifer now,
Oh,
though,
yeah.
because I thought I did. Okay.
Well, you did.
Okay.
My concern is about the feasibility of the educational preparation for these children. It's always about the children. And I know it is about you as well. And we want what's best. But my concern is also that we have given extension after extension after extension, and everything that you all have given back to us sounds so good. But we have got to see some action. We've got to see. We can't go another year after next year, saying, oh, well, you know, we still owe all this money, and, you know, we're counting on this group to come in and help us, and we're counting on this group to come and help us, and we're still sitting there, maybe 150 kids, and you want to go to grade 5, which is a big jump every year. That's my concern. We've got to have a jumping off point. And I gotta tell you, I think it needs to be a firm statement that, yes, we will extend another, you know, extension or whatever it's called, but we also have to have some very important promises.
You bring up a good point.
Not just promises,
No.
but we've got to have some action.
It's a good point, and I'm gonna ask a question I don't know the answer to, but you may know, when is their renewal contract up?
Okay.
Like, when would that
5 year, I don't know the exact year, because Matt is totally not. But their 5 years started this past fall.
When they started,
When they
y'all were
started
off.
operating school. So this is year 1, so next year will be year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and then they have.
So it doesn't start on the day of the contract. The
It
contract
doesn't
is
start in
like
2020. It doesn't start in
That started in
2020.
2020.
Because that was extended. That's my
Yeah,
concern, and I thank you for asking that.
And that's statutory, it says operational in the statute, so they didn't start operating and teaching children until this past fall.
Because it just seems to me we've been spinning, no offense, spinning wheels, and it's frustrating. And I know it's frustrating for you, it's frustrating for us, it's frustrating for parents.
Yeah, and I think one of the ways we can, I agree with you 100%, like, we need to be able to, we have to, whatever we do, we have to stay involved in this
Yeah.
concept.
And
It's
no
so-
matter what we call it, whether we
Right.
call it a revocation, whether we call it a whatever, some statement needs to be made today, in my opinion, that something needs to be done and we need to put a stamp.
And I thank you for your income. I know our students have shown growth. Ms. Thornton presented on that a couple of board meetings ago, so we are committed. That's our number one concern as well. And I just want to thank you for your input in just everything that the board has asked of us. We have taken, clearly we've been proactive in something, but we delivered by the deadline, everything that you all asked us for. Because we do value that. Yes, ma'am.
So to
All
your
right, I
point,
think we can excuse you. We're
Okay.
If you'd like, thank you, both, thank you.
to
Okay.
your point,
Yeah.
you know, so for me, one of the things that the evaluator, the national evaluator came in and just talked about this collaborating or just engaging. And I hate for these conversations to be had at such a time as like right now, where we could have been had a meeting or went to visit SR1 and hashed through a lot of stuff, or even a board meeting, I don't even know. But it's kind of like one of those things of like, we can still do that from now until then, where, hey, at the next board meeting, we just want to sit and hear from whatever your concerns are. And also be specific in whatever those concerns are as well. Like, hey, we're wanting, what's you guys' plan to where it's not like something you have to just put on paper, like you're responsible for this. I think part of it is us actually, you know, or at least Lisa, somebody being engaged, and part of the boots on the ground is kind of like we care about the students and families and the public money. And so it's kind of one of those things, well, how involved can we get? Can we zoom in on something and be able to have these real conversations about the concerns that you have right now? And because we're prolonging even longer with some stuff that we could have talked about outside of a board meeting.
Do you want to speak to, I mean, I feel like we've had multiple meetings going all the way back to the fall, and the staff has visited and.
I'm saying like us, I'm saying us
Yeah,
included
yeah.
with maybe some board members, maybe with some of the lead team. And
Well, the
we
one
can do
thing
that
I
with
think
any
you have
other
to
charter.
just be careful about a quorum and be careful with your Open Meetings Act and the requirements around that. Individual conversations are fine to have, and go out and visit the school. I know DRG invited you just a minute ago to come visit his school, and certainly you can do things like that. We've coordinated visits to the schools in the past, and then we've had trouble trying to coordinate visits with people in their different schedules. But that's one thing. I will say that Amy observes all of the board meetings that are at the schools. That's one of her job duties and responsibilities, is to observe them for those things that we're talking about, to make sure that they are having discussions about their budgets and about enrollment and about the things that are important to the community and to the success or health of the school,
But the
financial
problem
or
is we're the
otherwise.
ones that have to make the decision.
That's right, and that's
So-
why we would come back and share with you
Right.
if there was any concern. I
Yeah.
don't think Amy's had any concerns at all about board meeting observations or brought any of that to my attention at all in her observations. But we do have those opportunities that we can take advantage of and continue to do so, and engage other ways that we, I know Dr. McDonald and Jordan were out there not too long ago to observe the school, and so happy to do whatever you guys, your preferences.
Something like that. So we did use it more in that way, and that was also something that evaluated.
So there's four of us here,
Uh-huh.
and we're maybe in different places of my, seats, and I know we have a quorum. How is that? Fortunately, we're missing two board members, which is unfortunate. And I'm not sure what that looks like if we don't, we're an even number of people. I don't what happens in any motion, I guess. Is it if we don't have a majority, it just doesn't happen, or what is that?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
If the vote is split.
Okay.
then the motion fails.
It fails. Okay. Okay.
Right.
All right. All right.
Which means they would still be in the revocation.
Well, it depends on the
Depends on
motion.
the motion,
It
yeah.
Depends on the motion. If the
Yeah.
motion is to continue with the revocation review or to do something different, it depends on that motion. So
I'm
whatever.
not making a motion.
Yeah.
What if we did this?
Okay.
I'm trying to find something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's easier than trying to get deadlines.
Yes.
Right.
We ended the revocation process formally and scheduled a site visit with all of us in, say, 3 weeks into school, a week, a month into school, something, or late August, early September. That gives us time to know, to then reevaluate the next steps. And it kind of gives a reset, because it ends the uncertainty, at least for next year. and then gives us time in the fall to evaluate these concerns that we all have for the following school year. And see how those can be either met or not. I mean, that's what's in my head right now, because it leaves us all, it basically allows them to operate next year, but this is on our radar such that in the fall of next year, we've got to be timely about making some good decisions about the followings. And we gotta be on that, you know. But, does that get us anywhere close to where we're meeting the concerns we're all talking about?
I'm not comfortable removing a revocation review, because I'm not convinced this financial plan and the enrollment trend are going to resolve what would become a long-term issue. It's not resolved.
Even though we can restart it again if we saw something in August.
We could restart something again, but I'd rather the onus kind of be on the school to if their enrollment is not trending in the direction that they think it is going to be, that they submit a contract amendment, right? Because if we just
There will
remove,
be time if we've been in August, like you mentioned, to do that by November. I mean, it'll be enough time for them to say, hey, this is where we're thinking about heading potentially. Because we see, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out. I'm trying to meet in the middle somewhere.
What if we put those concerns in notice of concern? Did you say that was an option? We could reduce back,
Intervention letter,
revocations
level
in,
one is
we
notice of
at
concern.
least go back to the
yeah,
notice of concern, so we're still on track to.
The revocation review is a part of the intervention ladder, so we're just in a different section on the intervention ladder. Level one of the notice of concern is what you're
So
referencing
we go
right
back to
now.
step one,
You
we
could,
put some of these things in there.
and you could be very specific, you know, with, like I said, we could go back through the pre-opening requirements and match up anything that was questionable, or focus just on enrollment, or focus on, we could have monthly meetings, or we can do whatever the board
Yeah.
desires to ensure that it has the information that it needs.
Yeah, I would be okay with them. I mean, we have monthly meetings already for the most part. Not big,
our next
We
meeting
need-
will be in June.
Yeah, our
We're
next
skipping
meeting
that.
will
Yeah,
be
we
in
don't-
June. We meet 8 times.
Yeah.
A year.
okay, I'm sorry. Well, I guess what I'm saying, I would be open, and even if there was something that needed to be done, because closing the school is very serious to me, and it's something that, how much time that we need to put into reviewing and thinking it through, you know, I think we should take our measures this.
So when do we meet in the fall?
Yeah.
What's our schedule meeting?
Let's see, we don't have a new calendar yet.
We skip some, right?
We have,
We said
so we'll
like 8
skip
meetings a
May,
year.
we'll meet in
Skip
June
May.
and July, then we skip August,
Skip August.
and we'll meet September, October, skip November. That's
That's
how
how.
we- yeah.
And to me, June is a time to look at what the enrollment is and to see and to request or suggest, or to, I guess we can't make a condition that they do a contract amendment to.
No, and I think Letitia's slide today said June, but we connect sometime May, June.
Okay.
And then I send out an email to the schools and they
Right.
confirm what their enrollment projections are.
Right.
And sometimes it's pending an amendment, sometimes it's, it's been different things. So, or if we're adding a new school, I'll say, the school doesn't have a district number yet, and I'll make a little note on that. I mean, that letter that you saw was my correspondence to her. I don't know if it was an initial or a final, but it was my correspondence to her. So then those numbers are projected, their grade level served, and then their grade levels for the next year. But typically May, June-ish is when we communicate that first time, and then
So if they did a contract amendment
the board would have to approve it in June.
in June, or what about September? Is that too late?
No, I mean, that's not too late,
Okay.
but
So if they started the school year and then sent us one, we could take action on it in June. I mean, in September, that would then be effective for your final report in
yes,
November.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, and the one thing that I would say too, though, is just in light of what Jean was saying earlier, and that is, it always impacts the rest of the schools in the state. So that's one thing to consider. Then the earlier a school submits one, the better, so that then Letitia doesn't have to go back and readjust numbers and projections and things like that. So that's
So the
helpful
adjustments
for her.
For 2 years, not this next year, but
Right.
next year, their projection is 300.
That's in their
Look back.
contract,
All right.
that's within their
Whatever
contract,
is their
so if they don't
contract.
change
So
it, that's
they
what
could-
it'll
they
be.
could theoretically file an amendment that we take action on in June.
Yeah.
And it would say 200 or whatever,
Whatever
whatever number.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I guess, and so for me, here's my concern. They say 300 is what they have right now. And then they resubmit and they say, okay, well, 250, and we still say that's too high. So it's kind of like, what happens, because that could be a thing that happens. And so I would hate to say, let's do an amendment, and then they change it, and then it's still not.
Oh, if we don't like the, you're saying
If
if
we don't like the
we don't
number.
like the number.
If we don't like the
Right.
number.
Yeah.
So each time they could do that in September,
Right.
we could re-amend it, right, before the final number
Yeah.
in November, right?
See, I would like to
Maybe
s-
so.
I mean, I would like to be like clear about what it was, like if in June enrollment is fully enrolled kids is 120 and 60 per grade.
Yeah.
I would like to say, okay, they have 60 per grade. They can, their projection can be that 120 plus 60 for their next grade.
Yeah.
Be 180. So to be proportional to what you don't like this idea?
No, I am
Okay,
concerned that
Yeah.
we stay equitable with all of our schools.
yes.
Every one of our schools have projections.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to say to one school, you have to meet this threshold, but the other school
Oh,
could
okay.
not meet
Yeah,
that. you
I
know.
understand. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe this school and,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
part of the city
Yeah.
didn't meet but
Right.
70%. And then
Yeah.
we're asking them to meet 80%,
Right.
which doesn't feel equitable to me at all.
Yeah.
So, and whatever they project is gonna be in their contract, so that's contracted terms, it's a material term of their contract. So that's why it requires an amendment if they wanna change that number.
Yeah.
So it's just important to keep all those things in mind while
Right.
you're hashing out
Yeah.
kind of your thinking and how you wanna operate in
Right.
terms of
And I
that.
wanna make
Next
sure
step.
I'm
Yeah. And Candace, I hear you, Isabella, if you don't like, I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
so it's like somewhere in the middle of these two things, like, it's like, what would be best practices for managing a school? Is it to do it based on your
Yeah.
trends, or what you hope it's gonna be? So I hope they do it based on
Well,
trends,
Well, I mean, and that's what we'll be discovering if we go ahead and end revocation over the
Yeah.
next few months of just like having those conversations and getting those answers. I'm sure that what we either y'all can talk about it, or these are conversations that are being had right now. It's on the table, and so I'm not sure what else it needs to.
It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't hear that this conversation's being had, it's never once come up in any of our meetings with them at one time, that they might change their enrollment. Like,
I thought the board has, they have.
Because I thought you, did you mention that?
And they did the last meeting.
Not to
Yeah.
us.
not ever one time between to us, as that been mentioned.
I thought I heard it.
I raised it last meeting.
Okay.
I was one who talked about
Okay,
it.
yeah. We've brought it up, like, but that's
Well,
never
and so,
been.
what I'm saying is, as of right now, April the 8th, it's on the table for them,
Okay.
and so I feel good about moving forward in the
Uh-huh.
verification because they're talking about it, and then over the next few months, we can continue this conversation with them to see where they are. They may say, hey, look, we reassessed, looked at what we did, but I feel like they're spending so much time with this process. It's like I want to be able to. I mean, I'm sure they have other roles and responsibilities.
So what if we moved it back to notice of concern,
Yeah.
and we have, we can put requirements in that, right? Like, things we want to see, right?
And we would prefer that you say
Yeah,
that.
right.
Articulate that,
Yeah,
yes.
right. I'm just making sure. But so we could say, we want an updated enrollment, report, and updated financial report, and a updated status of any potential amendments. Because we're a contracting party with them, we can ask them to do that. And we asked them to give us that by the September meeting. That's our first fall meeting, right?
Can you mention it one time? We want, you said, updated report of what,
Enrollment,
okay?
financial status, and, one other I mentioned.
Potential enrollment,
Health-
update on any potential, I'm sorry, amendments,
Contract.
yeah.
Okay.
And that way, we do it after the start of the school year. require this after the start of this coming school year. We remove the uncertainty for next school year. We get the first available information after the start of the school year at our meeting in September. There's still wiggle room for them to file amendments in June that we can approve.
Yeah.
And then we reevaluate.
So I'm okay with all of this. I guess I'm wondering why we are the notice of concern versus the investigation.
Well, it is, because we just go back down and notice of concern a whole lot.
Okay, sorry. I don't understand it right now. I'm okay with this.
That's the thought.
No thoughts? Candace, you said you're okay with that. I don't want to wait till September to look at this again. I think we need to stay on top of it in our June meeting and see what the enrollment is, but, enrollment update, at one detailed budget with an actual one scenario, that's the actual real budget that you're going to work on in the fiscal year, not maybe this, maybe that, version 1, 2, 3. And an update on any potential amendments that the board has discussed, perhaps they submit their minutes on that.
So just the same thing, but just ask them to do it in June and July too?
I think we need to look at it every month if they're under concern, we should be monitoring what's happening. I'm not asking them to do anything new, to fulfill any outstanding thing they haven't already done, like you mentioned, there was some pre-opening issues that have not been resolved. I don't know why, at this point, that should have been done. Did you?
I don't have the evidence
Okay.
of it yet.
Okay.
So it's,
But I think we have to be careful too.
Okay.
If we're gonna say you have to meet this number again, if we do an amendment, then going back to what I said
Right.
earlier, what's the threshold?
Right.
What's the,
I don't
I
think we
mean,
put a number on it. I think we just ask for an update.
yeah, just.
That way it removes the uncertainty for
Yeah.
next year.
Update.
Gives them a
Yeah.
chance to go
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so I would like to make sure that if we do make a motion today, that is not a part of a specified numbers. Because we already have all the information that we need, and we're just getting updates on where they are. And like, is this June, July, up until the June of next year? Like, is there, where does it, and we may not have to figure this out today, but it's kind of like, I would love to see this be completely done. But I don't know what number what we're looking for either in financial status and enrollment for them to be, for it to be, I guess, satisfactory.
Yeah.
Like, so suppose August comes and they have, 250 students, or they have 150, like, is that okay? The financial budget, they give the one detail, is that okay? Or are we still going to come back with?
If they have 150 students in August, I don't think they should project they're gonna have 300 next year.
Well, I'm just.
Like, that's kind of like where I'm,
That's where the amendment we've talked about, so we have to give them an opportunity to do that. We have not right now,
Right.
to have the conversation, so.
So, if we're just gonna keep looking at it, it's really, today's like this critical time of like, do we just, we go forward or we stop? And so it sounds like there's an interest in going forward.
I think to what end?
To what
That's my
end? I guess,
question.
yeah, so.
So what would the board
Yeah.
want as a result of that?
Yeah.
So just information or?
Yeah.
That's for me,
Yeah,
because
right.
then it would be, of course, it's extra work on the schools,
Yeah.
it's extra work on
Yeah.
staff, it's
Yeah.
extra meetings, it's extra,
Mhm.
data collection where we have all that data
Mhm.
that we'll get. We'll have
Okay.
that data in the fall, we'll know what their enrollment is, we'll know what their their official enrollment, we'll know what their financials are after we complete the audit. We'll know all those other things. So my question would be then, to what end as
Right.
just, I know that's not my point or
Yeah.
my place to
Yeah, no, it's
ask or
helpful,
say,
it's
but I
helpful,
just in thinking
Well, I think
about.
the end is, we're either gonna close them or we're not, right? We gotta see the
But-
trend. If we let them open them one more year, we need to see the trend moving in the right direction. Momentum's moving in a good direction, and they've adjusted their amendments, and we're properly protecting public money then it continues. If they're not able to do that, then I think we're at a hard time of like saying,
Just a question then for clarification, so you're saying that go ahead and let them open, and then if they don't meet their terms, let them operate that full year again?
Yeah.
Without, and then,
because the money's baked in already, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
That adjustment is so low that it's already gonna be made per
Yeah.
MDU.
But then what prevents us next year with the same
Well, no,
thing
it
and the
won't be
grand
next year,
plans
because
and,
that's where
you know,
September comes in, at that meeting,
Yeah.
where we'll see,
yeah.
based on the trends from
Yeah.
now till then, and that'll be the time when we put our action in place, if
Okay.
we need to get there.
But like what would be the thing that you would be, what would be the dividing line for you on
Well,
what
I'm
that looks
satisfied.
like in September?
That's the question to you, I don't have any issues. That's
I'll answer the question.
Okay.
It depends on where they are with their amendments.
Okay.
And how much they've projected or adjusted that projection down, such that they can right size public money the following school year.
Okay.
Or get close, I mean, not.
Yeah.
But as long as that's moving in the right direction, enrollment has gotta go up, but the projections have gotta come down to a point where 25-26 school year, we see something that's much
Yeah.
closer
Yeah.
to what we are now. That, to me, that's our obligation.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
Because even if they exceed their projection, and they come to it, there's still funding that's available, from my understanding, that you guys may
Oh,
cover
sure.
that anyway, so it'd be fine.
Okay. Kind of all over, I know, it's another long meeting.
Mhm.
All right, so, so the item on, what I'm hearing is there's maybe some consensus, I'm not sure, among the board on what does enrollment look like in the fall? And if it, and their enrollment projections for the following fall should align with that. I think we have, I'm not sure about you, yeah,
And they
okay.
hear us saying that, so I'm sure they'll share that with the
Okay,
board.
yeah.
And
All right, so I think we might get, am I right? That's somewhat, is that a consensus we have in that part of it, that this is a shared concern that we have, or an interest we have in seeing that the projections for FY '26 are in line with where the school is at in the fall.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of great, so it's gonna be adding kids, but I think we have a kind of consensus there.
But not a defined number, we see upward numbers, so
Yeah.
in June.
Right.
Is there, what's the number, is it, right now, that you got 69 for current, okay, and so maybe it went up to 100, or maybe it went up to 75,
Yeah.
or maybe whatever, we're seeing growth, and not, you know.
we put on everybody on notice of concern that doesn't meet enrollment then for next year, that has had enrollment. Some of our schools are already on notice of concern for not meeting enrollment variance for 2 consecutive years, which is a financial indicator.
Yep.
So, would we?
They're already on the notice of concern for that?
Mhm.
Okay.
We have several schools on notice of
Okay,
concern.
well,
for
that would be, then I think it would be fair to have this
Notice of
school on notice
For
of concern.
enrollment variance,
Enrollment.
which is one of our financial
Yeah.
indicators.
Yes.
That's an annual review, right? that y'all
Right,
do,
that's right, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what if we made a motion like this? I'm not making it, I'm just.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
practice.
So you can
Do a practice motion, yeah, that's fine, okay.
That we move them to notice of concern. That's consistent with the way we're treating other people,
Yes.
because of enrollment concerns. We asked them to give us some, enrollment update. Not a benchmark, but just an update over the next few meetings. And we scheduled a site visit in August or September, something that's mutually available for everybody. And we also asked for an update on their contract amendment status. That's baked into the financial concern, because we're kind of, talking about money at that point.
and this is something that we would need to ask across the board, right, for the other ones that are those concerned, correct?
That's a question related to that. So with the other schools that received a notice of concern because of their enrollment was lower than projected,
It's an enrollment variance.
enrollment
So-
variance, okay?
Mhm.
So is there a corrective that they have to take as a result of that notice of
No,
concern?
because remember, the schools are on contract for a 5-year period.
Right,
So they're gonna get renewed, going into their final year of operation. So the
Uh-huh.
renewal will come up in year 4. And you'll look at their performance over time
Okay.
using the frameworks and the application and the guidance, just like what
Yeah.
DRG just went through with renewal.
Okay.
So we'll look at all those things at that point in time.
okay,
But in order for them to know that the authorizer has some sort of concern, whatever that concern is, academics or financials or enrollment variance, which is related to that. If we also look at net membership and enrollment, I mean, we look at all those numbers, but the law doesn't put a cap or
Yeah.
a threshold on pre-opening or on enrollment. That's based on what the school's model is
Yeah.
and what the school chooses to do.
Mhm.
And that's not something that we can be prescriptive about or
Right.
dictate to them. Just like we didn't do this, we didn't have this conversation with the other school that opened in 23.
Right.
They too did not meet their enrollment.
Mhm.
This was more about the number and the monies that were impacted. They met a higher percentage, like I said, 40, 60, I don't remember exactly what it was. But they met that number. And so we didn't have this conversation. This was really a very unique situation. In addition, they had a 2 to 3 year runway
Mhm.
where the other school had only had 18 months or 9 months or whatever it was. And so really unique and different situation. I just want to make sure that we're thoughtful about what the contract means, what the relationship means between us and the schools, and what, so that we're not over prescriptive. We can't be. We need to respect the school's autonomy, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers and an obligation to protect the children's interests as well. So all of those things kind of rolled in, I think, is what precipitated this revocation review, was because the numbers were so significantly low, and in reality, the school should probably not have opened and had taken the advice at that point in time to delay, at least request a delay again. I can't make that decision for the board, but at least have, that they were convinced that they were going to be able to meet those numbers and targets, and they're convinced that they have the money or access to the money or in-kind support to be able to be operational and serve the boys and girls.
But
So
now
the
we
other
have the
schools, we
receipts to go
didn't
with
have
it.
this
So we-
problem with.
But I guess what I'm saying, we do have the actual financials and receipts to show that they have the enrollment, they're actively.
Are you talking about this school or the
Yeah, for
other
this school,
schools?
this school here, this coming up. Yeah, this school, this one.
We won't have all of that information until the audit. When we get the financial audit, we'll have all of that detailed information.
So we're
And
getting
we-
that anyway.
We will have they're required by statute to submit an audit to us, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all schools are.
So where are we now with, making a motion on, I guess, ideas of what, since, it sounds like we can.
I'm not, it just doesn't look viable to me to go, I mean, we don't have to be in agreement, we may not be in agreement, this doesn't look like a viable financial plan or enrollment trend, it just doesn't,
So
and it's more destructive later.
Why
So,
we request it?
Yeah.
If it was not gonna be valuable, they gave everything that we requested. I was just wondering, like, how is it not valuable? This is what we asked for.
Okay, because they submitted a budget with debt involved in it, it's it's based on assumptions from
But we didn't specify
savings.
whether there's, it comes from, not like, they did what we asked them to do specifically.
Yeah, and it doesn't, it's not a good
And it's
picture.
not enough.
It's not a,
I mean, it's not enough. I mean, so it's on, I
Yeah.
want us to be very
Yeah.
clear in what we're asking. I asked it the
Okay.
last time.
yeah.
Because now you're moving the goalposts again.
Did everybody read the report from the analysts that looked at the
I
financial
did,
plan?
and I had this, yes,
Okay.
I had some.
And then that raised like one concern after another. That's an expert in school finance. I'm not an expert in school finance.
Well, charter
so-
school finance.
Charter school finance. That either. So, yeah, I learned a lot.
Yeah, the key for me from
Yeah,
that report
yeah,
was this idea of certainty, right?
Uh-huh.
She references it a couple times, like, if you're gonna move forward, you gotta remove the uncertainty for next school year. That doesn't mean anybody's out of the woods, but it does mean that it gives them the best chance to try to right the ship. Whether they do or not, it doesn't matter, but I think the biggest takeaway for me from that report was that he's kind of saying the same thing we are, like, in terms of the certainty of it. We gotta give them that certainty, moving forward, or just close the doors to that.
That's right. Those were the options, I think, that he said either, I think those were his recommendations, either close, make the determination, and then protect the children of the community and protect the teachers and the staff so that they have sufficient time to find another place to be or to do something else. And then I think he gave several other thoughts and recommendations in addition to that, but that was certainly one of them.
And I guess for me, like, if they would have missed one item on this list, I'm sure you guys would not have had any problem going ahead and deciding to close.
I'm sorry.
Well, not you. I mean, us. I'm just saying, there would be no,
Yeah.
just because you just mentioned either to, close the school, there would be no issue if they had missed one item. Now, they provided everything that we asked them to. We were very specific. And now.
Right.
it's-
And the analysis of what they provided is not a strong,
questionable.
it's questionable.
It's questionable, but they.
Highly
but-
questionable.
But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, I'm gonna say the same
Yeah.
thing I said back in April,
Yeah.
or back in March. That is on us, cause we didn't specify, in my opinion, we didn't make those specifications. We're consistently moving the goalposts. It's like, hey, give me this is not enough, it's not enough. That's kind of what I'm receiving. I don't know, that's my vantage
Yeah.
point.
I will just say this, I'm less concerned about the private sources of money that they're gonna go get, because there's different avenues for that, right? They've outlined some of that. I don't feel like I have that, I've got, our primary obligation is the public money. I think that's the way to say it, right? I mean, that's our primary obligation, and I think having a notice of concern or evaluating this before we get into hard numbers for the following school year, since next year's numbers are already baked in, is our best course of action to protect the public funds. They said they're not in debt yet. I haven't seen any indication that they are. The debt that is planned is potential debt, maybe if they need it. We just don't know that. I bet you we know by September.
Yeah.
If they've had to take out debt to cover their expenses for the next school year. But it still gives us time to figure out what that's gonna look like for the following school year. So I'm back to this idea of a notice of concern, due to enrollment, because we've got those in other places. Schedule a site visit in August, maybe even have them come back in person in September and give us an in-person update. And in the meantime, just send us, updates on enrollment or I guess enrollment's the primary thing.
And I think you said we weren't able to do that, right? Like
What's
we aren't able to have, that's what I thought you were mentioning.
Ask for status updates on enrollment.
Oh, we
Yeah.
can certainly ask for that. The board
Okay.
has authority to do, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying
yeah,
earlier.
so
The
yes,
board
we
can ask for those things. What I was saying is I don't want to treat other schools that have had similar challenges in terms of enrollment differently.
Is this the
Then-
only school that started revocation? And now we
Yes.
move into
Yes.
notice of concern?
Yes.
I think that's sufficient for us to
Yeah,
still
I
say,
agree.
look, this is a serious
Yes.
situation.
Yeah.
Y'all need to send us somewhere.
And the reason that we did was because the enrollment was, at that time, it was 12 children.
Right.
And, so
Well,
yes,
I'm
that's the only
I'm
school that we've
comfortable
ever
with
had.
that.
Okay, this is what I'm going to do, and it's not gonna be a popular decision. I'm going to make a motion to begin revocation proceedings for SR1 CPSA, which will include an administrative hearing as required in the MCSAB's statute and included in the Mississippi Administrative Code Title 10, Part 402, Chapter 5. You may vote for that. You may vote against it.
Let me get a second first, and we'll discuss it, which I think we already did, but okay, is there a second for that motion?
Well, at least y'all agree. I don't know. Well, I mean, on something, that's what I'm saying, on one thing.
So I will make a second. Can I make a second to
I
that
think so.
motion? Okay, all right, we can continue to discuss this.
Just quit taking notes.
Are there any more discussion on this motion?
So is this a new proceeding or, because we're already in revocation, right?
We were in a
Well,
revocation
she was
review.
saying
She
no,
said
I'm saying
revocation.
no.
She is saying begin proceedings to revoke their charter.
Yeah.
So that's what she's saying. At this point in
Yeah.
time, I think I wrote down revocation proceedings, and right now, that would be a step further than where they are right now.
Revocation proceedings.
With
Which is a
it,
step further up the ladder
Then-
than.
then revocation review.
So, and they submitted everything we asked, and then we're still gonna, and then, that's kind of like a step.
They've done what we asked, but it hasn't met the requirements.
Yeah.
It hasn't.
Yeah.
You
All right,
explain that better.
so, yeah, so we can vote on this motion, and
Yeah.
if you don't like it, then we can just wanna move along so we get to the business. Oh, I get a second.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did?
yeah, so
Let's
we're
just,
discussing it now.
let's just vote on it.
Yeah, so we'll take a vote, and we'll have to vote for it, and then we'll go to whatever our next, order of business, a
Okay.
different motion, so we can get there, so. All right, so, we've had our discussion, all those in favor of the motion that you just made, aye, okay, so I vote aye, and any opposed?
No.
Okay, nay, okay, so that motion fails.
That's
Okay,
right.
all right, so they're done with that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so now you're gonna make a motion, okay, all right, so
So
let's,
I'll make a motion that we move SR1 to level 1 notice of concern due to enrollment. And that we schedule a site visit in August for the board, for those who are available. That would require an in-person update from SR1 at our September meeting. And that would require email updates on enrollment, and any debt that they incur for June and our July meeting.
And say that last part again, I'm trying to capture it. Enrollment up to email
Email updates, not in-person updates, just email
Gotcha.
updates on enrollment
and debt.
and debt if incurred,
Gotcha.
not possible to incur debt
Okay.
at our June and July meeting.
anything about amendments, discussions?
No, but I'll add that.
Okay.
And that we have an email update on status of consideration of contract amendments
Regarding enrollment.
regarding enrollment.
Sorry to edit you, I was talking.
Candy Fried Chicken.
Can I make a point of order? I like that.
Yes, so yes, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, my issue is the language, used for a site visit. And I bring that up, but, I know Lisa is aware, but we are developing as a staff, we're developing site visit protocols.
Okay.
And so my question is surrounding whether it's actually a site visit, which includes lots of extra things, or if it's, or if it's more of a school tour.
School
tour.
Yeah,
School tour.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want to cause you more.
Yeah.
That's
School
I
tour.
think,
great.
We will lay our
you're
eyes.
still working on your motion, so you probably could sit back and say site visit instead of school tour. You just continue on.
I got that. I got it. School tour.
Okay, so-
Okay, so we-
Does he have to remake the motion?
Did you get it? The
I
motion?
think I have it. I think I have it
And
all.
you're moving.
Yes.
Yes, that you're moving to put SR1 CPSA on a level 1 notice of concern for the board to conduct a school tour in August. That the board from SR1 or the SR1 staff will come and provide an update to our board in September in person at our in-person meeting. That I guess that was monthly. Email us monthly the enrollment and any debt that was incurred, and then that's where I think that's where
That
I
doesn't have to be monthly, it can be when our meetings are. So
Okay,
like,
okay,
June and July.
gotcha. And that was the last thing, considering contract. Okay.
So can you repeat it one more time? I'm sorry.
No. Yes, I think. Okay, so the motion is from Ben or Mr. Morgan, to place SR1 CPSA on a level 1 notice of concern because of enrollment, and to conduct a school tour in August, to have the SR1 CPSA staff attend our September board meeting in person to provide an update to the board, to email us in June and July any enrollment updates and debt that should it be incurred, and then consider a contract amendment, submitting a contract amendment to us. That, I get it all?
Yes, that's it. The only thing I would change is the school tour in August or September. That way we just have some flexibility on schedules.
Okay,
And it's before our September meeting.
okay.
Actually, but before, 2 weeks before our September meeting.
All right, got it.
So that's my motion.
I just have,
Between the three.
I have a question about one part of that motion, if I may. So, you said other schools have got a notice of concern because of enrollment. So this would be consistent with how other school, that piece of it?
It will be similar to,
Okay.
but we have more data on the other schools. So we know we've been looking, our schools have been operational much longer.
Right.
So we have consistent data on them. And we are looking at if they've missed that enrollment variance target 2 consecutive years in a row, that we've, made them aware of that and made their governing boards aware of that. So it's similar to, it's not identical to.
Okay.
So.
Which is why I would want to ask for these updates in June and July.
Right.
And I think it's fair for us to do that since this is the only school that's been in revocation. Now we're just doing this next step.
Okay. All right, so we had a motion and you seconded, okay, it's been edited and you still second it, good, okay. Any more discussion on this motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Done yet.
Okay, no, we're not. We got a long way to
Okay.
go.
Okay,
We have a long way to go.
all right, okay. Can I take a quick bathroom break? Can we take a 5-minute quick? Okay, all right, ready, a 5-minute quick break.
All right, we're, I don't even know where we are. Since it appears to be okay, I'm just gonna wait a bit.
What a place.
Yeah.
It was supposed to get dark. I think I got to park. It did? I was looking every once in a while and it never.
This is back on. I was just checking to make sure it's okay.
Alright, okay. Alright, so we're back or? Alright. Okay, we're gonna resume. Alright, so our next item is to consider approval of the SR1 contract amendment request. So Dr. Comerchart, can you remind us, this is a totally different topic, although related. But this
related.
is- Yeah.
So SR1 applied for a pre-K program through the Department of Education. They were approved for a pre-K program to be monitored by the Mississippi Department of Education through their pre-K program. This is actually funds that came from the legislature through the state invested pre-K program. It is a multi-year grant as far as I know, and it's I think about $150,000 a year to operate the program. we didn't have a method or a mechanism for them to do that. And the board approved a temporary rule a month or so ago to allow for schools to operate a pre-K program because we don't have pre-K, it's not funded through the state. So we don't have a total pre-K program. This is just independent of. So that is what they're requesting, the board approve that, so that they can operate a pre-K program.
Oh, legal question. The contract amendment, it's
Yes.
amending the one contract that they have, is that right?
It is amending, yes, it's amending the contract to allow them to operate. There's some specific language in there that kind of
Right.
absolves us
Right.
of any oversight or accountability because we don't have any
That's right.
oversight or accountability of a pre-K program. The Department of Education will handle all of that.
Should we approve this, they'd still be one contract, if we decided to revoke that contract at a later date, well,
That's right.
So, are we discussing or can I make a motion?
Yeah, we can, then we'll have a session.
Let's
So I'll-
have a discussion, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve the SR1 contract amendment request.
I so move Ms. Robbins.
Okay, is there a second?
second.
Okay, any discussion? I have a question, so, maybe for the school folks, where is this gonna be? Where, and then, in this, where is the pre-K program gonna be located, in the same building?
Yes.
Okay, it's 40 kids, is it 40 children? Is it two classrooms? Okay.
So you got 40 on the wait list?
And we actually have a little more, a little more on the weekend. Yeah, so yeah.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, the next is an information item, and this is for Board Policy Title 10, Part 404, Performance Framework. Cleared the Administrative Procedures Act process with no public comment and filed as final with an effective date of May 8th, 2024. And now we have consideration of executive session. And so I believe we do have consideration for executive session or? not?
That is,
there a
that,
motion?
again, the
Oh,
board's
okay.
board's
Is there-
decision.
Okay.
If you
All right,
would like to consider
Okay.
executive session, we have guests who need to provide a report.
okay.
So
I'll make a motion.
you have to
For
consider,
Consider going into executive sessions. You have to,
Make a motion,
Consider.
make a motion to consider,
Then you have to-
make a close determination of the need to go into executive session.
Do I need to read that?
I don't know, you can just say I'll make that motion.
he's gonna make that one, oh, okay.
I got you. I agree. I move that the board go into closed session for the determination of the need to go into executive session.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Second.
Ms. Robbins.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So we're gonna clear the room. And then we'll make, okay, oh yeah, good time. Say the reason. What?
I didn't give me one of those.
Oh,